welcome back to Higurashi Arc 5, titled Meakashi? Anyway, it's gonna be a good time. I'm loving Shion. Meakashi is probably one of my favorite arcs so far, mostly because I like Shion a lot. And I'm hoping that this ends well for her, but you know, it is a horror series. It's probably not going to. Let's get started. Chapter 10. My relatives gathered at the Sonozaki house after the festival to have a little party. This is the festival in Keiichi's year, in case anyone's forgotten. I mean, we did do a year-long time skip. That is a new background. I mingled with my uncles and had fun. The ones who were, like, totally down with murdering you? Alright. I was trying to get rid of my eerie memories of the ritual storehouse. Mion was acting as the successor, so I tried to stay away from her. I'm sure she'd feel weird if I talked to her in a formal way. In consideration of the hag's old age, we ended the party around 11 p.m. We all helped clean up, with the women washing dishes in the kitchen, and the men folding the tables and putting them away in a storeroom. It only took about 30 minutes, and then everyone left, one after another. By then, Mion was no longer acting as the Sonozaki's successor and was back to being her normal self. Maybe I drank too much. I was lying on the tatami floor. Kasai asked me if I could get in the car, so I told him I'd barf if I got in right now. Can I spend the night here? I just want to sleep. Granny will get mad if she finds you. By the way, don't you have school tomorrow, Shion? No, tomorrow's our school's anniversary. There's no class. How many times a year does your school have its anniversary? Oh well. Okay, Kasai. She can stay here tonight. Her school has its anniversary every week. Every week. Understood. Good night. Come on, Shion, wake up. Granny will get really mad if you fell asleep here. Here, hold on to me. You can sleep in my room. Sis, My alter ego told me that I'm in a demon's stomach. I wouldn't have woken up if I hadn't heard that voice. But when I stop, he always walks one extra step. I might not have woken up at all. Alright. Still nighttime. And it automatically progressed that, so I didn't get a chance to digest that line. I didn't remember much after that. I was probably brought to Mion's room and immediately crawled into the futon. After a while, Mion got her futon ready next to me, turned the lights off, and went to sleep. At least, that's what I'd thought. I got up and turned the lights on. Mion's futon was empty. The futon felt cold. Mion must have left it a while ago. Did she go to the bathroom? No. The closest bathroom was right down the hallway. The light in the bathroom was off. Where did she go? The ticking of the clock was loud and annoying in this silence. The hands pointed to a little before 3 a.m. Okay, so before 3 a.m. on the night of Watanagashi, Mion's gotten up again. I was left alone all of a sudden in this late night, and I felt the eeriness of the ritual storehouse coming back to me, despite drinking it away with alcohol earlier. I tried to sense my surroundings in this house. There shouldn't be an eerie atmosphere, strange noises, or footsteps. I stepped into the freezing cold hallway to look for Mion. When I did, I noticed light coming from one of the nearby rooms. It belonged to that old hag. She went to sleep early and woke up early, so she was very strict about her bedtime. It was strange to see her light on in the middle of the night. I could hear voices, too. They belonged to the hag and Mion. I crept up to the room and listened to their conversation. Since it was the middle of the night, I could hear their words very clearly. But, you know, those young ones went too far. You're right. They made Oyashiro-sama angry, so I guess they got what they deserved. Mion's voice sounded as cold as the one I'd heard down in the torture room. I held my breath. I guess they got what they deserved, so they did get axed. And they already knew? Okay. The police say they're investigating, but are you sure? I guess. It's probably Takano-san. My heart almost stopped. Oyashiro-sama got angry. The police are investigating. It's probably Takano-san. And what day was it today? Those words told me that something was happening. My teeth started to chatter, and I desperately tried to stop them. I felt like my body was swelling up suddenly. I could no longer hear as well. Calm, come down, breathe. Listen more carefully. According to Mion and the hag's conversation, another incident definitely took place. The victims were Takano and Tomitake-san. From what I could tell, both Mion and the hag thought it made sense that whatever it was happened to them. No, I need to think more calmly. They did say they deserved it for making Oyashiro-sama angry. I mean, she was in the same place. But, most concerningly, she should be listening to the conversation instead of panicking. Come on, Shion. Did they say Takano and Tomitake made Oyashiro angry? How did they make him angry? They knew. My body started to shake. They knew we snuck into the ritual storehouse. That would mean Keiichi and I were also subject to the curse? Suddenly a phone rang. The phone was by the front door, and the front door was opposite the hag's room, further down the hall. The ringing echoed through the long hallway, and it sounded so eerie, almost like it was coming from hell. And that was when I felt someone behind me. Of course, there was no one there when I turned around, but there was someone there a moment ago. I didn't know if it was Satoshi-kun. I didn't sense any emotions, so I couldn't tell. I mean, she's projecting her feelings of emotions on the spirit behind her so hard. She's like, it must be Satoshi. Who else could it possibly be? I also didn't know how long it had been there. It was as if somebody was watching me, listen in on their conversation. That was the feeling I got. It couldn't be Satoshi. He'd never be that intimidating or scary. Again, she's projecting emotions on a feeling. She's like, clearly this feeling of someone following me is Satoshi. Like, okay, yeah, sure. And, you know, the feeling of someone being with you all the time could also be God. But she hasn't mentioned that it's actually God. She's only ever thought that it could be Oyashiro-sama, or the spirit of Oyashiro-sama, the local deity, or Satoshi. Why are those the only two possibilities? My mind turned all red like it was suffused with blood. Have you experienced anything like that? Those footsteps always followed me. They even came to my bedside and looked down at me. I remembered what Reina Ryugu said on that rainy day. Oh, it was Reina. I thought it was Satoshi. My bad. You'll be okay if that's true. Oyashiro-sama won't get mad at you. If Oyashiro wasn't angry, no one would follow me. What did this mean? I don't know what the fuck it's supposed to mean. If Oyashiro was following her literally for months, then it clearly wasn't for the storehouse break-in. Ever since we snuck into the shrine storage, something's been following me? What is it? Calm down. That's right, Reina wasn't talking about me. She was talking about Satoshi. That's what happened to Satoshi. Everything he's going through, it's a sign of Oyashiro-sama's curse. That's right. That's why he encountered the curse of Oyashiro-sama. You feel someone's watching from a distance, and it follows you. A creepy feeling crawled up and spread across my back. Then it watches from right behind you. After that, you start hearing an extra footstep. I swallowed loudly. It's almost as though Reina Ryugu was predicting what would happen to me. Had Reina been talking about Satoshi back then? Or had she actually been talking about me? You start hearing it inside your house after a while. And then, Oyashiro keeps watching you even when you're sleeping in the dark. Right by your side, waiting silently. I knew by now there was no mistake. No matter how I looked at it, she'd been talking about me. Yes, me. It had all been about me. The curse of Oyashiro-sama. What is the curse? And that was when I actually felt something for real. Someone grabbed my collar. Ah! No voice came out. I wanted to scream, but all I could do was to open and close my mouth, as if there was something stuck in my throat. It was Mion. She looked even colder than how she'd looked in the underground torture room. It only made sense that she'd come out into the hallway to answer the phone. I don't know why she was standing there. She was panicking so unbelievably hard that when she heard two people talking, she just sat there and let them find her. Should have just backed off, or like... whatever. I tried to come up with an excuse. I heard the phone ring. However, I mean, that's a bad excuse, so she wouldn't answer the phone here, but still. I don't know what her excuse what my excuse would be here. However, the way Mion looked at me was so damn cold. Even if I really had run into her by accident, I could tell by the look in her eyes she wouldn't believe me. I felt cold sweat all over my body. I couldn't even move my fingers. Sorry. I apologized. I could have said something to get myself out of the situation, but the apology came out first. Mion didn't appear to hear me. She walked to the front door, still holding my collar. The phone was still ringing. A normal person doesn't usually let a phone ring so long at this time of night. I mean, the phone's rung like 100 times. The call itself didn't seem real to me. Mion picked up the phone. This is Mion. I see. I understand. Please take care of things at your end. And please make sure nobody talks about this. Yes. Goodbye. Mion put down the phone after a short conversation. What did she mean, make sure nobody talks about this? The fact that Takano and Tomitake are dead, probably. Who called anyway? Mion put her forehead to mine and spoke to me. Did you hear? Which conversation was she asking me about? She had to be talking about the one with the hag. If I said yes, what would happen to me? I don't know what you're talking about. Mion pulled my collar, pressed her nose on mine, and continued to speak. Yep, just what you heard. The curse fell on Tomitake and Takano-san. I should do her voice, which is the curse of Oyashiro-sama fell on Tomitake and Takano-san. Except I can't do that in an intimidating way. Oh, congratulations on being the King Prode fight. What gimmick did you go for the usual clear, or go for a 1 turn? 106 turns, Jesus Christ. It's really very unfortunate. It was like I was talking to myself in a mirror, but what I was saying in the mirror was ever so cold. What's the curse of Oyashiro-sama? Tomitake killed himself by clawing out his throat. That's a lie. It's not a suicide. Well, he suicided himself. Much like people will suddenly disappear. Double Merlin mash? Double Merlin mash? For a King Prode clear, oh my god. Well, I mean, you can do it with neutral damage if you really want to. Sakana was burnt to death in an oil drum. Wait a minute, why is she burning to death in an oil drum? That's a really weird death. Terrible, isn't it? Terrible, isn't it? Tomitake clawed his own throat out until he died? What? Sakana was burned to death in an oil drum? Wait, what? I felt something furry crawl up my spine. I also felt like my stomach was turning upside down. I didn't feel any strength in my legs. If Mion let go of my collar, I'd probably collapse on the spot. Why did they die that way? Don't you know, Shion? I'm asking you because I don't know. I don't know. Don't you see there can only be one reason? Please don't talk as if you already know. I already know the answer. What do you mean? My heart was pounding. I felt that my next breath would be so bloody and hot that I'd choke on it. Man. This is the first time in a while Shion's actually completely lost her composure. But that's probably because her sister's fucking terrifying, so I can understand this. I can understand. Your sister's terrifying and heartless, and I don't even know why you're with her. I guess I don't know why you're still friends with her. Don't you know? It's because they made Oyashiro-sama angry. The first year was the manager of the damn construction site. The second, the traitors to the village. Yeah, the best thing was seeing Mash do 1 billion damage after a while. Yeah. Yeah, that's quite a long fight, though. You try to Zerga and NP at turn 1, but you need NP4 Arjuna. I believe NP2 Arjuna Alter can actually do that. I think we have a couple people who did that with an NP2 Arjuna Alter in Double Merlin. Turn 1. I didn't do the math on whether or not it was possible, but they claimed it was possible. With your NP2, you only did 1.3 million? Oh, I have no clue then. I have no clue how they accomplished that then. Alright, second year, traitors to the village. Third year was the pacifist. The fourth year was the relatives of the traitors. I'd always thought the victims were people who had something to do with the dam conflict. Since I didn't do anything against the village during the dam conflict, I assumed I was safe. I should have known. I should have known everything would be the curse of Oyashiro-sama. I knew Oyashiro-sama's anger was the curse of Oyashiro-sama. I knew Oyashiro-sama would get angry if I snuck into the ritual storehouse. But, like, see, the thing she doesn't know is Tomitake was poisoned by someone. The same someone who's gonna poison Keiichi, whether or not he goes into the storehouse. But since I wasn't held responsible in any way for the damn conflict, I never thought I'd be a victim of the curse. Did I ever think there would be an incident in the 5th year? Did I ever think I'd be the victim of the 5th year incident? Tomitake-san snuck into the storehouse and he clawed at his own throat until he died? Takano was burned to death in an oil drum. It must be a lie. It couldn't be true. Even if it was forbidden, it's just a space for storing some old torture implements. It's breaking the pattern, though. It's breaking the pattern, meaning someone's interacting with it. If you assume all of these are actually Oishiro-sama, there should only be 2 deaths. One of which should be a disappearance, and there's 2 deaths. Something's going on. I hope someone comes to that conclusion at some point. How could they be killed for just sneaking in there? Especially in such gruesome ways. But I thought about it again and realized those people are absolutely capable of doing things like that. The main Sonozaki family was capable of it. Yeah, exactly. They do that shit all the time. They'd been pulling the strings behind this series of mysterious deaths. They could do it. The Sonozaki family even kidnapped the grandson of the Minister of Construction in the dam conflict. Yeah. During the dam conflict, they can like kidnap fucking anyone they want to in Japan, man. They could do it. The Sonozaki family made Satoshi disappear completely. They could do it. Mion leaned against me before falling onto the cold hallway floor. She collapsed rather violently. I usually didn't go to sleep with my stun gun. Wait, Mion leaned against you before falling onto the floor and collapsed? I usually didn't go to sleep with my stun gun, but since I was too drunk to get ready for bed, I still had it on me. Wait, did you actually shoot her with your stun gun? I finally understood. I didn't know who killed them exactly. Whose idea it was or who ordered it, I didn't even know who was actually involved. But Mion and the hag knew everything. Satoshi? Now I finally know. Now I know what I need to do. I'll settle the score for you, Satoshi. I'll avenge you, Satoshi. I won't be killed like you, Satoshi. I walked into the hag's room. She was sitting up to take some medicine, her back turned to me. Mion and I are twins. If I acted like her, dude, you're wearing different outfits. I wish we could go back and look at the visuals. We were wearing completely different outfits. If I act like her, the hag wouldn't notice the difference. I didn't think she ever suspected me. I put my stun gun to her neck and pulled the trigger. I heard an indescribable electric sound, and then the hag's lights went out. Oh my god, is she just going for it? Like, she's just going... You know the stun gun's not gonna paralyze Mion for that long, right? I assume Mion's not gonna be fucking dead from a stun gun. The old lady, maybe. I mean, that's why, well, despite the fact that stun guns are ostensibly less than lethal, they are still dangerous to some people. People with pacemakers can die. People with really bad hearts can die. Like, it's not 100% safe. And obviously you can suffer some, like, muscle pains or injuries from falling on the floor suddenly when all your muscles start spasming. She fell in a twisted position. I didn't know how long it would take for a person to regain their freedom of movement after getting knocked out with a stun gun, so I had to restrain them before they woke back up. I was unbelievably calm. The key to the torture room was in the forbidden drawer only the head of the family had access to. Mion told me about this once. I'd never looked for the drawer before, but I found it exactly where I thought it would be. The key was on a keychain with several of its sisters. Each had a little plaque on it that said what it was used for, and they were all in Mion's handwriting. Yeah, no problem, bro. It's fun checking you out. It's fun checking you out. Playing some Forza. Seeing what you were doing. Had a good time playing Forza, and I like the rotating heart. That's actually a good idea. I don't know why, but it reminds me of it's like racetracks from some racing games, you know, where they have like the racing track pop out and then it rotates on the spot. That's what it reminds me of, a heart-shaped racing track. Hydration time? Of course. Oh, it's always drinking time, especially when my reminder to hydrate is here. Jesus fuck, it's this chapter, you're not saying anything, but you said Jesus fuck. I'm assuming, okay, I'm gonna guess that she's probably going to torture one of the old lady to death. And I don't actually disagree with her. I mean, I'm okay with her killing her. I don't think torturing her is the right solution, but whatever. She's pretty desperate, and lots of people are being pushed to the limits. She was an idiot for being so conscientious, but it sure helped me out. Alright. I put the keychain in my pocket and headed to the outdoor storeroom to find a cart. I found a large flashlight there as well. There was a strap on the flashlight so I could put it on my shoulder, and that way I'd have both hands free to carry Mion and the hag. Dude, Mion's gonna fucking break out. Stun guns do not last. The effect of a stun gun does not last this long. At least as far as I know. It can run voltage through you for up to 30 minutes, I believe. I believe it's like up to 30 minutes. You might be like paralyzed, but that's while it's like fucking discharging itself. I think that's while it's continuously discharging. Or no, 30 seconds, sorry. Not 30 minutes. It's like 30 seconds of paralysis while it's actively discharging into the target. Mion probably having a bad time doing anything at this point, but she could probably move her limbs here. Or at least attempt to start recovering. This process, just this, is probably long enough that Mion would start to recover. She must be feigning. She might be feigning something, and there might be like a reversal here. We'll see. I was prepared to use the stun gun again if they woke up while I was working, but it was more powerful than I imagined. The hag showed no signs of waking. This is the stun gun Kasai specially ordered for me, and I told him I wanted a powerful one. I remembered him telling me it was illegally modified and I should never use it for fun. Wait, how do you illegally modify a stun gun? What's gonna go? Wow, okay. Okay, that's how we're doing things. Illegally modified stun gun. What the heck does an illegally modified stun gun look like? Is it modified to, like, wouldn't it just kill you? Man, you guys seem really excited for this next scene. It must be a very positive and family-friendly scene. I think they're all gonna shake hands, hug, and make up, right? I used my flashlight to find the light switch. I found it easily and turned it on. All the lights went on in the basement. Although there was now illumination, it was very dim. I moved quickly so as to finish what I needed to do before they woke up. I decided to put Mion in a cell beyond the torture room. The lights in the torture room were so bright it was like daylight. There was a door there. I was fairly certain the cells were on the other side of that door. The proper key was here. The keys made a tinkling sound. I felt cold air coming through the gap in the door. Isn't this how she gets put in fucking jail anyway? I'm pretty sure Mion reverses this, right? I'm trying to remember how this goes. I'm pretty sure Mion reverses this. Because, as I recall, you find Shion in the cages. Alright, there must be a huge opening on the other side. I opened the door and saw nothing but darkness. I felt along the wall to find a light switch. There's the prison cells. I turned the switch on and the light bulbs lit up, revealing a huge rocky cave. It didn't look like a natural cave, more like an air raid shelter. There were several hollow openings with bars across them. These were the cells. I walked up to the closest cell and checked to see if it was strong enough to confine her. I pushed and pulled on the bars. I rammed against them with all my weight and decided they were perfectly sturdy. This was secure enough to be called a cell. I opened the lock and carried Mion in. It wasn't particularly strong, I wasn't particularly strong, just average. I never thought I was strong enough to carry a whole person, but now I didn't need to pretend to be weak. I could easily lift and drag their bodies. I put Mion in the cell. She seemed to moan a bit. I didn't need to check to make sure the effect of my stun gun was wearing off. I closed the bars and turned the key in the lock. Running to the hag, she must have been starting to wake too. Fortunately, there's no sign of her regaining consciousness. Maybe the difference in age had something to do with it? I looked for a table to restrain her on. I found a wheelchair with restraints for the hands and feet and put the hag in it. Of course, she didn't resist, but her dead weight made it seem like she was a huge French doll made of flesh. I put her hands on the armrest and restrained them at the wrists with the metal rings and hinges. I did the same with her feet. This must have been a wheelchair specifically remodeled to restrain a person. Other than the restraints, it was a regular wheelchair. I waited for the hag to wake up. I had so many things to ask her. I didn't think she'd answer honestly, but I had plenty of tools to make her talk. I was in no rush. When the hag had a concern, relatives took care of the problem. That was how it worked in the Sonozaki family. She was the leader of the family, so all information they gathered would make its way to her. And again, I've said, I'm okay with her actually axing this insanely controlling, pretty evil Yakuza boss. I don't know if you need to torture her, but go for it, I guess. She's looking for her boyfriend who was we don't know if he was tortured to death, but he was definitely murdered / disappeared on her order, so is what it is. That said, as I recall, Shion does not leave this place. No one sees hide nor hair of Shion after tonight, so I'm looking to see how what happens if this gets reversed, like how this goes, because as I recall from the Arc 2, Keiichi runs in here, and Shion's in the cage. So either they change things slightly this time around, and Shion stays in control, or I don't fucking know. Or like that was actually Shion the whole time. Who knows? She must know everything that happened in Hinamizawa, including the curse of Oyashiro-sama. I heard a noise from the cell. Mion must have woken up before the hag did, and speaking of the hag, she didn't seem like she was about to wake up anytime soon, but she was restrained, so even if she did, I had no need to fear. I left her there and headed for the cell. Shion, what do you think you're doing? She talked like the successor, but she also sounded frightened. She obviously understood the situation she was in right now. Oh, good morning, Mion. Never thought you'd be in here, though, huh? As acting head, I order you, open this up. You don't sound so scary in there. You need to talk more like a leader, don't you think? Although talking that way only makes you look like a fool. There was nothing funny about it, but I wanted to intimidate Mion. My laughter echoed through the cave. It was artificial and meaningless laughter. I heard it over and over as it echoed. It sounded as if I wasn't the only one laughing. Again, or you might be her grandmother, but she's a terrible person. I think to appease Oryu, she had to like rip out 3 of her fingernails. That was our last interaction with Oryu. She's like, rip out 3 of your own fingernails, or I'll kill your friend, your boyfriend, and your uncle. There we go. Which is a bit of a brutal request, but that's how Oryu works. And we were what, like 12 then? So we're like probably 13, 14 here? No, Keiichi's like 14, right? So we're 15? Silence filled the air. The silence almost hurt my eyes, so I started to speak. Tomitake and Takano becoming the victims this year. I didn't expect that. What an idea to burn Takano to death, but actually, she'd be the kind of person who'd prefer to die that way. Maybe she's satisfied, huh? Mion didn't say anything. She just stared at me to see how I'd proceed. What is the way Tomitake died? He clawed out his own throat, right? Did you give him a shot of some kind? Or is there a torture device that does that to him? Mion didn't reply. I was smiling boldly, but I became impatient and finally kicked the bars. It made a violent noise. Mion jumped as if she was kicked directly. It's boring to not get any answers. Do you have any idea what'll happen if I get angry? How would I know? Mion finally replied. She was odious, but at the same time sounded pitiful. Hey, Mion, as successor, why don't you tell me? Let's see. I had too many things I wanted to ask her. I wanted to ask her about me, about the incident, about the curse, about Satoshi. I didn't even know where to start. Before I asked her about those, I asked her one other thing. You know there's no point trying to resist, don't you? Wait, hey, if Mion's awake, I guess you can stun gun her again? As long as... The thing with stun guns, though, is they actually lose their charge. Like, you can't just endlessly shoot someone with a stun gun. You only get, like, 1 or 2 shots. You get, like, 1 shot, maybe 2 shots, and then it's fucking out of juice. Like, they run on batteries, and they spend most of their battery electrocuting someone. They're not, like, reloadable, right? Like, you need to swap batteries pretty quickly, so... Maybe she'll think she gets her with a stun gun and actually gets fucking wrecked. We'll see. Mion glared at me silently. Because we were twins, I knew that was just a bluff. We've come this far. There's no point in hesitating anymore. You shouldn't expect hesitation or even mercy from me, sis. Mion must have been feeling the cold sweat on her face. Although the light was dim, I could tell she was frightened. Alright, here I go. First, the series of deaths at Hinamizawa, also known as the Curse of Oyashiro-sama. What's the meaning? Is it to signify the end of the damn conflict? I think so. Mion sounded confused, but she answered, I felt satisfaction now that we were communicating, and I continued with a smile. You think? Don't you know the details? You know yourself? The successor is simply a messenger for Granny. Right. But the successor must know everything the head's thinking, right? Do you really think I'll believe you're just a messenger? Although I'm always around Granny, I don't always know what she's thinking. It's not like I can understand her all the time. Okay, so you're saying everything about the curse is decided by the hag herself. I assume she'd talk to the successor about it. When it's something dangerous, Granny decides on her own. I don't have anything to do with it. But even if she decides by herself, the hag uses you to take care of various things, doesn't she? Mion was in charge of all the stuff related to the dam, including the kidnapping. And you're telling me you don't know anything? No, she doesn't use me for that. I really don't understand it myself. It's like I take care of problems on the surface, and someone else takes care of problems on the underside. Who? Who's the one that takes care of these underside problems? I don't know. Haven't you seen anyone? Haven't you overheard a phone conversation? There must be someone who gets in touch with the hag at the same time every year around the time the curse happened. I don't know. I really don't. Mion shook her head. Okay, let me change the question. Why were Tomitake and Takano chosen as victims, even though they had nothing to do with the dam conflict? Was it because they snuck into the ritual storehouse? As soon as Mion heard the words ritual storehouse, her expression shifted. Ritual storehouse? Did they intrude on the spot at the Furune Shrine? Didn't you know? I thought you already knew. If they really did that, it was truly stupid of them. Of course something would happen to them. Mion muttered bitterly while shaking her head repeatedly. Mion's reaction made me realize the true meaning of the forbidden storehouse for ritual implements. It's a sacred building that no one can go inside. The curse falls on any who disobey. Any child would know that rule. However, just because they know about it doesn't mean they believe in it. Although they're told they'd be cursed, most of the kids actually enjoyed hearing the story. They simply didn't believe it was true. However, Mion's reaction told me it absolutely was. If they actually did that, of course something would happen. She was saying that if someone snuck into the ritual storehouse, that person should be killed. What you and I know aren't matching up anymore. Of course I'm aware I shouldn't waltz into the storehouse, but to be killed in a gruesome way for doing it? I never knew that, did you? That's because you're ignorant about it, Shion. Well, sorry for being ignorant. Could you please explain it to me? Just like you said, kids don't really believe in the curse. They assume it's a superstition, but they also know if an adult found out, they'd be in big trouble. To the elderly, it's something serious. Mion explained to me how elderly people blindly believe in Oyashiro-sama and how sacred the festivals are to them. It's probably something the younger generations would never understand, but they're possessed by a strong, deeply rooted devotion towards Oyashiro-sama. Mion then went on to tell me about how sinful it was to violate the rule of the storehouse. I couldn't believe, things like that were still going on in the modern day. I couldn't even reply appropriately. So all the old people, all the old people in the town are the people? But even if it was unbelievable, I couldn't ignore what I was hearing from my twin sister. See, but Mion, doesn't the rule say one victim gets killed by the curse and another has to become a sacrifice? The body of the sacrifice is never found, but there are 2 dead bodies this time. What do you think of that? Mion doesn't know that besides Takano and Tomitake, Keiichi and I snuck into the storehouse, so I tried to lead her a little. I know, that doesn't make sense. Maybe Takano's burned body wasn't supposed to be found. Maybe the intention was for her to vanish. Or, I'm not too sure, but... Just say what you're thinking, I won't get mad. Mion hesitated a little and started to speak. Actually, 4 people struck into the shrine storage, so maybe... Oh? Maybe what? Maybe the other 2 become sacrifices and get demoned away. I mean, that'd be unusual for the curse, but that would be a reasonable conclusion, right? Okay, 1 person gets found, 1 person disappears. If 2 people get found, 2 people disappear. The fact that it doesn't happen until the 5th iteration is kind of weird, but that's fine. Mion's words were stuck in my head. If those 2 dead bodies were the result of the curse, then there should be 2 sacrifices to calm Oyashiro-sama's anger. Well, here's a neat trick. Disappear. Since we know you can... Well, since we know you can cause the murders, I guess. Since we know you can cause the disappearances, or I think you can cause the disappearances, by hiding bodies, why not, this is a great opportunity to get rid of Oryu. It's not like she's gonna let you live after doing anything to inconvenience her directly. She literally hates your boyfriend and fucking murders him. That's not even inconveniencing her. If you're actually knocking her out and putting her in her own torture room, she's probably gonna have you killed. You should probably just go all the way and axe Oryu, because there's no way you get out of this alive, right? That's 1 disappearance. Throw her down the well with Satoshi. Except she doesn't know that Satoshi's dead, but anyway. The 4 of us snuck into the shrine storage together. It was a simple equation. Did that mean Keiichi and I were in danger? I got drunk, fell asleep, and decided to stay overnight. Was that because of the alcohol, or did someone put a drug in my drink? It's not like me to get drunk and spend a night at the hag's house. I wanted to forget about what happened in the eerie storehouse, so I drank too much, but it was really strange for me to get that drunk. Maybe it was a good thing I woke up in the middle of the night. I could have been the one to wake up in a cell. Yeah. I mean, it's not unreasonable for them to have cameras, hidden cameras posted somewhere in the storehouse. Sometimes it's hard to recognize danger when you avoid it accidentally. A part of me wanted to just laugh at the idea, but another part felt frightened. I was so close to being in Mion's position. If my thinking was correct, I wonder how Keiichi was doing right now. I didn't see him in any of the cells, but that didn't guarantee his safety. Takano and Tomitake had been executed. There was a possibility Keiichi was already dead. But just like what happened to Satoshi, it might only happen after a few days. When the sun rose, I was going to pretend to be Mion and head to her school. I was going to check if Keiichi Maibara was safe. If he'd already disappeared, the enemy would come after me next. I'd have to be a decoy for myself, but if he was still safe, I'd need to keep my eyes on him. I was sure the enemy would come after that scatterbrain. If I became Mion, Shion would disappear. The enemy would think Shion had already been demoned away, and they'd concentrate on Keiichi. If nothing happened to Keiichi, that would also be fine. It'd prove that nothing would happen to me either. The hag was still sleeping in the wheelchair. I was going to interrogate her, but actually, you know what? I wasn't expecting to learn that much. The woman who was known as Empress Sonozaki probably wouldn't say a thing, even if her fingers were cut off. Mion, her successor, was the complete opposite. She spoke readily, but didn't know too much about anything. Mion said she was only a messenger, and that someone else was taking care of problems on the underside. It was possible Mion had grown to be a good liar, and she tried to deceive me with a straight face. But at the same time, I could see the hag not letting her get involved in the underside of the village. If I were her, I wouldn't have used Mion for that either. As I recall, she actually did run the underside of things. Specifically, she was running the underside of the Guardians of Hinamizawa, and the mayor was running the front-facing public side that everyone likes. Yeah, I wouldn't have used Mion either. Unlike me, Mion's a nice person. While there's only ones and zeros in the world, she believes there's numbers with decimal points. In other words, she could never be cruel. But if the hag thought the same way as I do, it was very possible. The one who took care of problems on the underside, X, was the one who actually governed the curse of Oyashiro-sama. If the hag became concerned about something, X would deal with it, either directly or indirectly. Or maybe the hag and X would discuss the details first. But did X really exist? Did someone really exist who did this? If he did, his place in the village hierarchy was a lot more important than that of his successor. Unlike Mion, who's too nice, he's discreet, cruel, and cunning. Furthermore, he's extremely close to the hag, someone who would have a lot of contact with her just before it was time for the curse. Because of the way Tomitake died, it would be someone who regularly dealt with unusual drugs. He could be a member of a medical institution. The director of Erie Clinic, perhaps? Yep, Dr. Erie. In this isolated village, he was famous for opening a beautiful clinic and for working so hard for the villagers' sake. He's also wearing he's wearing like the usual white medical jacket, which is what the people in the vans wore. And we never met Keiichi in the first run. We never met Dr. Erie in the first run, or the second run. Did we meet him in the second run? I don't think we met him in the second run, so it could have been the doctors making people kill themselves. The villagers liked his mature personality and really respected him, but is he really the person who killed Tomitake? There's nothing scarier than a doctor who's also a murderer. If Erie was the person behind the curse, all the mysterious deaths could be explained. However, there's only a slim chance of him being that person. The main reason being that the hag wouldn't trust him. He's not a Sonozaki. And like many of the elderly, she doesn't like young people. I knew she'd never trust him because of his age. Yeah, he's in like his 20s or 30s. Furthermore, she openly criticized his behavior among the relatives once. Although he was famous, he was an outsider. He wasn't born here. He tried to maintain a good relationship with the villagers as director of the clinic, but that was just on the surface. I couldn't even imagine the hag telling him about her worries or the village's underside. If she was as suspicious of others as I was, then she'd only gather trustworthy people to deal with that underside. The first who came to my mind were the leaders of the three families. Leaving Rika out, the head of the Kimiyoshi was a strong possibility. He's the only one who could advise Empress Sonozaki. They were of similar age. Everyone knew they were close outside family councils. Furthermore, as the mayor, he often went to the Sonozaki house just before Watanagashi to discuss festival preparations. I could easily picture them talking privately. The one who executed the curse of Oyashiro-sama, the one who murdered Takano and Tomitake, the mastermind behind the series of mysterious deaths that had been going on for the past 5 years. Was he coming after me? Did he get to Satoshi? When I thought about Satoshi-kun, I felt elevated. I was fearful of possibly being this year's victim until just a moment ago. I was scared X was after me, but when I thought about it, I realized, whoever it was, this person got Satoshi. I'd looked so hard, but I couldn't find him. I'd almost forgotten about this enemy, and for better or worse, he was going to appear before me once again. No matter how hard I'd tried, I couldn't find that enemy, but now he was trying to find me. That was it. I wasn't only being chased, I was chasing too. And when I realized all this, I was no longer afraid of dying to the 5th year's curse. It had become a game. Alright, can she figure out who the fuck is going to demon people away? And avenge Satoshi. I wasn't only being threatened, I was threatening too. And now is the time to settle the score for Satoshi. Now is the time to awaken passions that had grown weak over the past year. I could feel righteous indignation and courage flare up within me. The only emotion that can defeat fear is anger. When my anger completely overtook my fear, I felt as if I were reborn. Why don't you wake up, Empress of Hags? I kicked her wheelchair rather violently, but that didn't wake her either. Are you pretending to be asleep? I grabbed her hair and pulled her head up. She might be dead. Even so, the hag stayed silent with a straight face. And then I noticed something. I looked for an appropriate torture device. They were all large scale, nothing particularly handy, and that's when I saw a cigarette lighter on a cushion in the tatami room. One of the relatives must have left it there. She might actually be dead from the taser. I lit the lighter. A huge flame appeared. I turned it off and on and went back to the hag with it. Can you see it? Can't you see it? This is a lighter someone left behind. I lit it in front of her eyes. I'm gonna burn your nose now. You don't want that, do you? I wouldn't want it. Why don't you quit pretending to be asleep? There's no response. She might be dead. I put the flame right under her nose without hesitation. The tip of the flame touched the tip of her nose. It must have burned her nose hair. It smelled terrible. I was certain, but I continued anyway. I brought the flame closer to her eye. Her eyelid didn't move one bit. The flame burned her eyelashes, making it smell awful again. I turned the lighter off, and then felt her throat and wrist. I didn't feel any warmth. I didn't feel a pulse either. Did she die from the stun gun? There's no way she could pretend to be asleep while being burned. Even if she could endure the pain, anyone would reflexively move their eyelids if a flame came close to their eyes. But she didn't. I turned the sink water on and aimed the end of a hose at the hag's face. The pressure wasn't high, but by squeezing the tip of her nose, I could make it squirt out. Water hit the hag in the face, but there was no reaction. Shit. You gotta be kidding me! You gotta be kidding me! Satoshi is her boyfriend, the guy who disappeared on the 4th year. The year before Keiichi. You gotta be kidding me. She's dead! The one who was at the center of everything is dead now? I knew she wouldn't talk, but I didn't expect her to end up dead. I'd never even thought of killing her. Dude, you were gonna have to fucking kill her in the end anyway. You can't take this hag hostage. In fact, this entire thing was, like, done by the seat of her fucking pants. She literally, like, Mion started threatening her, and she just, like, she just panicked and stun-gunned Mion, and then is like, fuck, well, I stun-gunned her, I guess I'll go stun-gun the hag, too, and fucking get my answers now. It's kind of like she just saw an opportunity when she was being threatened to actually fight back, because she had a weapon. I would say this is one of those moments where it's like, you've probably pushed Shion too far, and she's kind of just, like, making panic moves now. Like, she's not thinking clearly. Because she's lived so many years in terror that she's just like fucking snapped. She's just like fucking decided to abandon her like calm demeanor and is like in full panic mode. I walked around the room restlessly. I didn't feel guilty, but instead frustrated with what I'd done. Come on, I need to calm down. What do I need to be afraid of? Calm down. Stay cool. Calm down. Stay cool. I can feel my brain starting to calm down. My emotions cooling down with it. She was my true enemy. It's just I killed her before confronting her about it. Sooner or later, I would have killed her anyway. See, now she's changing her mind. She's like, I should have killed her anyway. She wouldn't have said anything in the first place, so there wasn't really a reason why I should have let her live. I didn't realize that until now, and that's why I got frustrated. She's like, I didn't realize I should have killed her. My revenge for Satoshi started with the unexpected death of my grandmother. It was such a strange feeling, like I was wearing sopping wet clothes. It's like, you wanted to kill her, but didn't realize you wanted to, and then until you killed her, and then you're like, actually, no, that's actually okay. But I wanted to know that I was killing her so I could feel that I was getting my revenge. It's like I accidentally achieved my revenge before I realized I wanted my revenge. I replaced the feeling with anger. I couldn't forgive her. I couldn't forgive the hag for abusing the Hojo family, including Satoshi for so many years. She cornered him psychologically and physically. She didn't deserve an easy death from a stun gun. I picked up a whip that was hanging on the wall. It was designed to make sure the person on the receiving end got seriously injured. I swung it up and then down. It reminded me of when I was a child hitting through the jump rope I pretended was a whip. Unlike then, I'd made a purple mark on the hag's face, and reddish-black blood started oozing out. I mean, she's already dead. This seems thoroughly unnecessary. But as you can tell, she's really fucking angry at this bitch. Nobody mutilates a corpse for no reason, right? I swung it up and down, like she killed her, and she's like, fuck this. She didn't deserve to die gracefully. This time the whip hits her in the head. Her hair flew in the air. I saw a bunch of her hair on the tip of the whip, and at the end of the bunch of hair was a piece of her skin. It seemed the whip had ripped part of her scalp off. I continued to hit her with the whip. I didn't bother removing the hair beforehand. The tip of the whip was divided into many points, with each point having a fish hook on the end. Ooh, those hooks added to the speed of the whip, and they not only scratched the victim, but tore their skin as well. The hag's hair was messed up, and her face was getting bloody. She'd started to look like a real demon. Shion's a violent, psychotic person. It might be in the blood, but it told you. I don't see this as... I see torturing her after death as being unnecessary. I feel killing her is perfectly reasonable. I don't think she should go as far, but it is what it is. No, I stopped the whipping, not because my arm was tired, but because I couldn't stand the feeling of her hair on the tip touching me every time I swung the whip. I threw the whip at the hag. Breathing heavily, I realized I was covered in her hair. It almost felt like thousands of maggots crawling all over me. I brushed it off violently. You deserve this, you fucking demon hag. Probably. Probably. Deserve it? Probably. Was it necessary, especially after she's dead? Probably not. I put my hands on my knees and exhaled roughly. It was then I noticed it. I perked up and turned around. There it is. The person who'd been watching me since I snuck into the shrine storage. I sensed them sitting in the tatami room. It enjoyed watching me torture my grandmother, and an overwhelming emotion started swallowing me up. I tried desperately not to feel it. How long have you been there? You should have said something. It was just there. Just like Satoshi, it was just there. It was extremely uncomfortable to have it just be there. I see. Reina told me. Are you Yashiro-sama? I smiled boldly, and yet I could feel my body shivering. You can't fool me. Are you saying you're Oyashiro and that the curse really does exist? Come on! Who would believe something like that? Huh? It was just my imagination. It couldn't be the curse of Oyashiro-sama. The curse can't be real. Everything's done by humans. They made everything look like it was a curse. Well, I don't care if you saw what I did. I won't charge you for it. But if you're thinking about interfering, I won't hold back, you know? No matter what I said, nothing happened. It was like trying to communicate with an insect. I felt like I was staring at a spider in the middle of its web, and the spider was staring back. I turned to the hag in the wheelchair. I couldn't leave her body here forever. If I don't need to make her death known, it should be quick, and it's best if a body doesn't exist. Not even in this secret underground torture room. Whew. I exhaled to try and calm myself down. Oh, I remember now. When I was a little girl, Kasai used to love making me feel scared. He told me scary stories about various horrible things, and I recalled his story about the secret torture room of the Sonozakis. According to the story, there's a well in the torture room for dumping bodies in. There's a pile of tortured corpses at the bottom of the well, and resentful moans could be heard echoing from there. And halfway down the well was a different tunnel, a secret passage leading into the distant mountains. That bit was from Mion's telling of the story. It was probably an amalgamation of tellings from different relatives. The room was supposed to be a huge secret, but everyone got loose lips at the chance to have fun scaring the young successor. Mion? Do you remember one of our relatives talking about a hidden well a long time ago? There's supposed to be a well somewhere in this underground torture room, and it's connected to a secret passage. Did you hear some noise earlier? That was me whipping the hag. Mion didn't reply, but I saw her bite her lip. Don't worry, I won't whip you, but if you don't cooperate, I might punish her some more. Next time, I won't use a whip. Down at the end, did you see a cell in the darkness? It's in there. Mion pointed weakly. I walked down to where her finger indicated. A light bulb lit up the cell. It was a lot smaller than the one Mion was in. It was shallow, and I didn't need to open the door to see how tiny it was. Of course, there was no well in there. I became angry, assuming she lied to me, but after considering it, I didn't think she would at this point. I opened the door and walked in, and noticed something immediately. There was an opening right in the middle of the cell. This opening was naturally disguised. The way the rocks and the shadows were positioned perfectly hid the well. The tip of a rock inside the cell concealed the entrance, and unless you went in, you'd never notice. But it was such a shallow cell, nobody would even think of going in. Besides, the bars allow you to see the inside well enough. The cell is not even a few meters deep. It would only take a glance to see everything. Nobody would think of unlocking the door and walking in. That's a nice disguise. But walking in is the only way anyone could find the well. Furthermore, there were many cells in this huge cave. Who'd think that one was hiding a secret well? The inside of the well was dark, and I couldn't see anything, but every noise I made produced echoes, and I could tell this was a very, very deep well. Ooh, okay. I brought a flashlight from the torture room, and it shone down the well. It almost looked more like a vertical tunnel. Obviously, a man made one, at that. There were wedges on the wall like a ladder, and they looked like they were inviting me to descend. It's kind of ironic the secret escape route from an underground torture room ended up being a well that takes you even further down. You had no way of knowing whether it would take you to freedom or to hell. Furthermore, there were tortured bodies of past victims at the bottom. Who would be able to go down this well without hesitation? Nobody in their right mind could go down this well to look for a secret tunnel, hearing the voices of the dead all the while. Have you ever gone down that well, Mion? I never wanted to. I feel the same way. Why would I go down the well where they toss the victims of this torture room? I went back to the room and returned to the cave, pushing the wheelchair containing the hag. Mion screamed, Shion, are you going to push Granny down the well? No, I'm just dumping her body. She's dead. Rest assured, I didn't torture her to death. It was probably the stun gun. Maybe her heart failed. I could just leave her body here, but I don't want it to rot, you know? How could you? Do you want to take care of her even now that she's dead? Maybe you can use chopsticks to pick the maggots off her body? Huh? Mion covered her ears and shook her head. Everything I said seemed to bother her. Her own life wasn't guaranteed at this point. Shion, why did you do this? Well, let's see. What do you think? Nobody said anything for a minute, but the silence was soon broken. Satoshi? Is this revenge? I don't know if it was really revenge since it happened so quickly. I'm sure she died without feeling a thing. Hey, Mion. Now that I think about it, I did have a reason to kill the hag. Do you know what it was? It wasn't just because she killed Satoshi. It's because she lied. I slapped the hag's head. You said it too. You told me if I ripped out my nails, she'd forgive everyone. That's why I ripped out 3 of my fingernails. I did what you told me to, right? But she didn't keep her promise. She made Satoshi disappear. Why? What was that for? I continued to slap the hag's head. Her blood was all over my hand by then, and it felt gross. I tried to wipe it off on her clothes, but then her hair got on my hand. I ran to the sink in the torture room and washed my hands with a brush. When I was done, I went back to Mion's cell after Satoshi disappeared. You came over and told me. You said the relationship between me and Satoshi was forgiven. You also said the Sonozaki main house had nothing to do with his disappearance. Yeah, you lied. It's true. It's true. His body is at the bottom of the well. His body is at the bottom of the well. Lied. Lies, all lies. My shouts echoed through the cave. I was breathing heavily. I felt like I used up all the air in my lungs. I believe you don't know anything. You aren't even sure if the hag actually trusted you, but I don't know if she forgave Satoshi because of what I did. She wouldn't have told you the truth. The hag didn't keep her promise. She said she'd forgive everyone, but she lied. She didn't forgive. She didn't forgive Satoshi. Liar, damn it. Give me back Satoshi, I want him back. I want him. I kicked the hag's leg repeatedly. Each time I kicked, the wheelchair made a squeaky noise. I ran out of breath. I kneeled down. Mion was still covering her ears and was now shaking. There were tears in her eyes. Sorry to scare you. Sorry about that. If you really don't know, I won't torment you. Don't worry. But if you're ever lying to me, well, you'll have to accept whatever comes your way. You know what I mean? Oh. I feel like Shion's kind of snapped, but it's not entirely unbelievable. It's not entirely unbelievable. Living her life like she has for like the last year, the last couple of years, in fact her whole life. I'd be surprised if she didn't have at least one mental breakdown. I'd be very surprised if Shion didn't have at least one mental breakdown. I mean, like, I'm not saying it's reasonable to be doing what she's doing. Although I did say that killing the hag is probably a reasonable thing to do, but I mean, I can kind of see where she's coming from, right? Like, okay. Like, this grandmother hates you so much, she literally tries to, like, strangle you in the crib. And she has absolute control of your whole family. So she also, like, fucks with you as hard as she possibly can. I wasn't planning on killing the hag so quickly. I was gonna kill her anyway, but it was too soon. People would normally assume the Sonozaki family operates as a hierarchy, but it's not true. It's actually more like a system of government. Several ministries stem from the main family, each forming a hierarchy of its own. These ministries don't communicate with another. The people who belong to a given ministry don't know what other ministries are doing. That way the Sonozaki family's dealings are kept perfectly secret. Of course, the most important people in the family govern several ministries. They know, of course, about their own ministries. And they know a little about the ones their relatives run. But none of them know everything. There's ministries that work in the open, ones that work unseen, and there are some smaller ones that Oryu runs herself. Mion seems to know about most of them, but she doesn't necessarily know them all. In fact, she didn't know about the curse. Considering that, the fact that the hag died before I could interrogate her is a huge loss. Yes, a damn shame. The head of the Kimiyoshi family was the one who called the main house most often after the 5th year's curse. My father called the second most. My parents were still high in the hierarchy, but the stir caused by my mother's disownment still hung over us, so we were treated as outcasts. The fact that my father received so many calls proved how much the hag valued us, despite the distance at which we were kept, demonstrating her own two-faced respect for both sides of the coin. My father seems to be in charge of the Intelligence Bureau. He reported police information, gossip, rumors going around in the Yakuza business to the hag. He silences, stirs, and distorts the information at her request. By the way, my servant Kasai is an old friend of my father's. That must be why Kasai knows many things. But I don't know if my father is involved in the curse's execution. My assumption is that although he gathered information in the police investigation about the case, he wasn't involved in the execution itself. The fact that my father and the hag have this close connection isn't widely known. People know she uses his information network, but they don't look very far beyond that. In the same way, it's possible that a curse execution team exists under the hag's direct control. People just aren't aware of it. Yeah, we don't know enough information about how people are supposedly being cursed. We've had some hints that it's a supernatural thing at the last minute, but for the most part, it's looked very man-made. Keep going, let's find out if we can get just a little bit more information. I was having such a happy dream. Satoshi was in the dream. He was leading his normal, everyday life. He was back on the baseball team. Eri and I acted normally around him because we knew that's how mature people should act. We welcomed him back as if he'd been there with us for the whole time. It's a nice dream, a good dream, but it's not real. Although he hits well in practice sessions, he still doesn't do well in a real game. Come on, Satoshi-kun. 3 strikes already? I'm cheering for you. Then Satoshi pouted as he mumbled. I felt tears pouring down my face. Oh. I can't sniffle if my nose is dry. Satoshi. Oh. My nose is too dry to sniffle, alas. The happy dream faded out with my sobs. The harder I tried to focus on it, the faster it faded, and soon it was all gone. I could see the bright morning sun through a crack in the curtains. I was in Mion's room at the Sonozaki house. When did I come back? I was crouching in the corner of the room and crying. A dream is a dream. I wished I hadn't woken up. But one must wake up from a dream. We live in a world where there are no dreams, and that's why we always wake up. But I wasn't sure if I was the only one dreaming that dream, because I felt like Satoshi was right beside me. Satoshi? Did you come back? There was no reply. That was the rule. If it was Satoshi, I'd wish it'd smile at me just once. But his presence faded away as if he were never there to begin with. I heard the phone ring by the front door. Oh, right. I was the only one in the house now. I had to answer it. I got up to walk to the front door, and I felt unsteady, so I put my hand on the wall to support myself. I hardly got any sleep. It was like I had a bad cold. The phone continued to ring. I probably didn't have to answer it, actually, but I was still half asleep, and all I could think of was answering the phone. Hello, Sonozaki residence. Sorry to call you so early, it's Kimiyoshi. Is your grandma still sleeping? It was Uncle Kimiyoshi. She is, yes. I guess she's still tired from yesterday. I think I'll let her sleep in. Yeah, you probably should. Mion-chan, you're going to school, right? Can I leave a message with you? Sure, what is it? Let's see. There'll be an emergency meeting regarding the incident from yesterday. It'll be at the Shrine's Assembly Hall starting at 5 p.m. Did you get that? Yes, I'll give her the message. As soon as I put the phone down, it rang again. Hello, Sonozaki residence. Morning, sorry to call you so early. This is Kasai. Is this Mion-san? Good morning. Kasai-san. Good morning. Is Shion-san still there? I wasn't panicked, but I hesitated. I could tell him no, or I could play both Mion and Shion. She's washing her face just now. I'll get her for you. I decided to play two parts. I went back and forth down the hallway and picked up the phone again. Kasai, good morning. Good morning, Shion-san. Are you going to school today? Of course not. I feel miserable. I kind of expected that. By the way, how are you getting back to Okonomiya? I can have someone pick you up. I think I can get a ride from Uncle Kimiyoshi or someone else. Don't worry, I'll figure something out. Your father told me to make sure you go to school often enough. I'd appreciate your cooperation. I'll go when I feel like it. By the way, Kasai, did you hear? What about? You know, the incident from last night? I have. How truly horrifying. All the past victims were war criminals from the dam conflict, right? It's so different this year. What do you think about that? I don't really know. Kasai wasn't the type to talk too much. If it was about something complicated, he usually responded like that. You know why those two fell under the curse of Oyashiro-sama? No. I heard this last night. Supposedly, they snuck into the ritual storehouse during the festival. Used a metal wire or something to unlock the door? Kasai went silent for a while. I held my breath while waiting to see how he responded. I expected him to say he couldn't believe they were chosen as victims just for sneaking into a storehouse. I expected him to say that it was too unrealistic. I see. That was stupid of them. Huh? Since Tomitake was an outsider, I bet he didn't know. I went along with Kasai, but I felt disturbed on the inside. Kasai didn't wonder why breaking into the storehouse would justify their deaths. I'd known Kasai for a long time, which is why I knew there was heavy meaning to what he said. Wait, why does Kasai believe in the curse? By the way, Kasai, actually, I did it too. Did you go in? Yeah. You went into the storehouse, Shion? Yeah, Takano invited me. Kano, Tomitake, and remember Keiichi who just moved here recently? Him and me, to make 4 of us. I heard Kasai sighing so heavily. Even though he didn't say a word, I could tell he was shocked. I'd never known him to act this way before. Shion. Don't you remember what happened last year? How do you think you can take care of this? Last year was 3 nails, maybe 5 this year. Sorry, I wasn't trying to make light of the situation. I knew I shouldn't have done it, but I regret it at least a little, but is it really a terrible thing to do? You're related to the main family. Do you really think people would understand? I've been living in Okonomiya my whole life. Since the hag hated me, I've barely been to Hanamizawa. Besides, I was stuck at school. How would I know about any of that? I heard another sigh from Kasai. Kasai told me my excuses would be useless. Shion. I'm your ally. I want to support you as much as I can, but there are dangers even I can't protect you from. Besides, Sorry. This is here. I gotta go. See ya. Wait, what? I interrupted Kasai and hung up. Why did she just hang up there? Wouldn't that have been a good time to get information? At least the lecturer might have told you who's behind things. Like, he might have been like, dude, you're in danger from X people, or this is gonna happen, or like... He might have some information. That's it. I feel like she just doesn't want to confront the reality that someone else or the supernatural might be behind things. I didn't want to hear it. Yeah, here we go. See? I didn't want to hear Kasai reject me. He who'd been my ally my whole life. Shit. Damn it. I could hear the sound of the cicadas. The sound made it feel like I was being cooked on a huge frying pan, making a sizzling noise. I couldn't help feeling remorseful. Now that I knew sneaking into the ritual storehouse wasn't a laughing matter. I really didn't know it at the time, though. Sure, the door was locked, so they didn't want anyone going in, but... And why did they change the lock? What did they say? I think it was that Rika-chama said that the previous lock was too heavy for her, so she had it changed to that cheap one. That was how Takano broke in. If the heavy lock was still there, this wouldn't have happened. I slapped my own forehead. Then I took a deep breath. I had to calm down. What you should do is the smart thing to do, because you have a twin and you're worried that like your twin or people who are like on against you in the family are gonna kill you. You should probably have set up a password with Kasai if he's the only person you trust. Be like, I need to set up a password with you so that you know it's me and not Mion. It's gonna be like, I don't know, Fluffy Bunnies or something like that. Something easy. Or have Kasai suggest a password because Mion thinks like you do. She thinks Mion thinks like she does, so she should probably not use the password she would pick. I had to calm down. What was the point of fussing now? I'd already passed the point of no return. There was no use thinking otherwise. The hag was already dead. Even if she wasn't, she was now at the bottom of the well. Therefore, it was already past the point where I could just cut my fingers off in apology. Yeah. You've already killed someone. I felt so damn unstable. I'd walked on the fence around the swings at the park before as if I was walking on a tightrope. It was fun because even if I fell, it was only a short distance, but it wouldn't have been fun if I were up really high. True. There's a lot more tension when you're when you're like 100 meters above the ground than there is when you're like 2 inches above the ground. At that very moment, I was in fact already on a tightrope that was a lot higher than the fence at the park. As soon as I took a step, the rope behind me would vanish. I couldn't step back. There was nothing behind me. Now time moves in a linear fashion. In short, that's the current situation I find myself in. Just standing in one spot was all I could do. Even if I'd never took another step, I'd fall if I wasn't careful. If I forced myself to walk, the danger would only increase. But if I didn't move, I would fall eventually. I couldn't see what lay ahead of me. There was no guarantee I'd ever find firm ground. But if I stopped, there was only one fate awaiting me. I have to move. Onward. If staying here guarantees death, I'd rather try to walk, even if I die as a result. Even if there's a dead end ahead of me, at least I tried my hardest. Respect. In general, I try to be optimistic. I could accept my life not lasting particularly long. But I couldn't go easily. I'd struggle as much as possible. I'd already killed the hag. For that, there could be no other punishment than death. I knew my life would end soon. So in other words, I was actually already dead. And a dead person has nothing to lose. That means I can only go on the offensive. I clenched my fists tightly as I muttered. Even if I had to die, I couldn't die easily. This was my chance to avenge Satoshi. Who did it? For what purpose? Why? I was going to investigate. I was going to question. And I was going to expose. I was going to settle the score. I'd carry out the plan I came up with yesterday. I could hide the hag's death somehow. All I have to do is say she isn't feeling well since Butanagashi. I could do it all while pretending to be Mion. And just in case her friends at school became suspicious, maybe I'd start telling them I hadn't been feeling well either. In fact, I did feel groggy from my lack of sleep. When I became Mion, Shion would automatically disappear. I'd already told Kasai I snuck into the shrine storage, so he'd probably end up telling people I was demoned away due to the curse of Oyashiro-sama. The last person I'd have to think about was the fourth one who snuck into the storehouse with me, Keiichi Maibara. Maybe I can use him as bait to lure out the enemy? Sorry, Keiichi, you're just gonna have to be my bait. I felt a little bad since I was starting to like him. With all that figured out, though, let's go to school. I'd gone to school as Mion before, so I knew how things worked. This time, just don't flip the fuck out on Satoko. You'll be fine. It was almost time to leave the house. Last time she went as Mion, it was a fucking disaster. And Mion was like, are you fucking serious? Michan, you're late. You waited? You should have just gone on ahead. Hey, Mion, your face is red. You're breathing heavily, too. Michan, are you not feeling well? Reina put her hand on my forehead. Man, your hand's pretty cold. Chen, you're a little warm. It's no big deal. Give it a half day. I'll be fit as a fiddle. Are you really okay? You don't have to push yourself, you know. What's this? Kei-chan, are you worried about me? That's so nice of you. I'd always thought he was a goofball, so I was a little surprised. I thought they would tease me, but they didn't. I just think you shouldn't push yourself so hard. We can tell the teacher you had to take the day off. I'm fine. I took some medicine. I think it's already working. Okay, then, let's go. Don't overdo it, but of course there's the time. What? We need to run or we won't make it. Oh, this morning got pretty thrilling. Maybe it's just what I need to shake off this sluggishness. Let's run. Okay. So she's like a little hungover and sleep deprived. President, if you would. Everybody stand up. At attention. I'd made the same mistake before. I never learn, do I? You think Mii-chan's doing okay? She doesn't look good. Oh, really? How unfortunate. It was a good idea to make them believe I was sick. Even if I did things differently from Mion, I had an excuse. Well, you know, girls have those days where they just don't feel well. You're gonna get kicked. I don't have those days. Meepa. Mion's friends kept each other occupied and left me alone. Keiichi, my bar. He might suddenly disappear one day, and I couldn't let that happen. That would be like letting a fish take the bait and swim away while I was fast asleep with a fishing pole in my hands. I couldn't miss the moment the enemy took a bite out of Keiichi. I had to be careful. How do you know the enemy's not going to take a bite out of someone else? But it was impossible to keep my eyes on him 24 hours a day. Spying on him at school like this wasn't good enough. Should I have him meet with Shion and let her explain that he's in danger? Maybe we could set up a strategy together. I didn't think Keiichi realized how serious a crime it was to step into the ritual storehouse I hadn't, after all. Since last year, all the incidents that related to the curse had been investigated in secret. People involved with the three families would know about the incident from last night. But Keiichi shouldn't know anything. So, this is how we get his contact with Shion. She wasn't dead this whole time, as I think the police tried to tell us. She's actually alive. She's actually been alive this whole time. And it's Mion who's been disappeared in the basement for a while. So I'm curious how this gets reversed. Or what happens. Alright, so people involved with three families wouldn't... Yeah, Keiichi wouldn't know anything. Alright, if he knew where he stood now, he'd be more cautious too. That should make him aware of his surroundings, and maybe he'd notice if anything odd took place? The teacher caught him sleeping, so she ordered him to go wash his face, and he walked out into the hallway. I was sleepy too. I had to be on alert, but I couldn't clear my mind due to lack of sleep, and I decided to go home early. Since I'd been pretending to be sick since morning, my request was approved. Are you gonna say hi to Keiichi? As I exited the building, I saw Keiichi washing his face. I thought you'd be out here. It feels better outside, huh? Mion? Oh, no cutting class now. It looked like it felt refreshing for him to wash his face with cold water. I washed my face too, but it didn't feel as good as it looked. Mion, how's your cold doing? You're sleepy because of medicine, not lack of sleep, right? Actually, it's a secret, but after the festival yesterday, I got wrapped up in the party my relatives were having, and I had a bit. I pretended to drink with an invisible glass. Are you hungover? How old are you? Keiichi's exaggerate his reaction, but he seemed worried. Alright, later, I'm going back. Careful on your way home. Don't wobble into a sewer or a brook, got it? Keiichi turned around to go back to the classroom. Oh, one more thing, Kei-chan. I stopped Keiichi. He in response turned around. What's up? This may sound weird, but don't think too hard about it. It depends on what it is. Last night, near the end of the festival. Did you see Tomitake or Takano anywhere? I noticed Keiichi's body tense up. His reaction proved he felt guilty about sneaking into the ritual storehouse. He was frightened that Mion Sonozaki might know about it. I guess this was enough to give him a certain impression of Mion Sonozaki. Oh my god, he's gonna be paranoid now too, cause now he's like, how the fuck did Mion know? I remember this scene from Keiichi's perspective, and it was actually terrifying, cause you thought this was Mion, and you thought she's gonna fucking kill you. Oh my goodness, this is a nice, like, I know they do slightly different stuff in each route, but it's really interesting to see this exact scene play out from someone else's perspective, and realize that he isn't even talking to the person he thought he was talking to. He's talking to Shion, who is the person he went into the storehouse with, but he thinks he's talking to Mion, and he's like, the fuck does she know? Holy shit. You know, Tomitake and Takano, don't you? You remember, Kei-chan? When the four of you were talking during setup the day before? Those ones. I could clearly see how dismayed Keiichi felt. He was trying to come up with an excuse. Yeah, it's nerve-wracking on his end. I can't remember. I might have seen them, or not. He was both a bad liar and a bad actor. He wasn't really that intelligent at all. That would make him a suitable friend for Mion. He's just a brat, unlike Satoshi-kun. Although when it came to lying and acting, Satoshi was at about the same level. Wait a minute. If I go by Route 2, is everything, and I mean everything, is everything that happened in Route 2 with Crazy Mion actually Crazy Shion? Oh, alright. That's an interesting revelation. I just realized it now. I'm like, wait a minute. Without anything changing, very reasonably, everything that has Shion, everything featuring Shion, everything featuring Mion could be Shion in Act 2. And that means in the cage, what you think is Shion could actually be Mion. And that would also mean the person who kills themselves would be Mion? Interesting. Okay, I'm getting more information. I'm putting things together now. This is very interesting. Because we went through like this entire arc thinking that like maybe it was Mion being the villain and doing all this crazy shit, and might actually be Shion pretending to be Mion, which is even crazier. So when it came to lying and acting, Satoshi was at about the same level. Maybe Keiichi should be credited for at least trying to tell a lie? Satoshi wouldn't have said a thing. I didn't need to be thinking about him right now, though. Let's see. One more question. On the same night, did you see Shion? This was a very mean question. Keiichi was perplexed, as I'd expected. Didn't you ask me that yesterday? I think I told you I wasn't sure if I had or not. I'd asked him that yesterday? You must have meant Mion Sonozaki asked him that question. In other words, she asked him that after he left the storehouse and got back together with his friends. Damn you, Mion. When I asked her, she said she had no idea you went into the ritual storehouse. Shit. Did you? I guess I just thought I'd give her an answer if I asked you again. Why are you so intent on knowing if I did or didn't? Oh my god, she's making him paranoid on accident now. Oh my goodness. He was getting defensive. Keiichi couldn't hide his panic as he flared up at me. It's not important. It's just that there's some people who are speaking poorly of Tomitake, Takano, Shion, and you, Kei-chan. I didn't really hear what they were saying, though. Keiichi was really perplexed now. Oh my god, the fucking paranoia when Mion was talking to us like this. Not only can I sympathize with how uncomfortable this scene is for him, but now having lived Keiichi's life through this, oh my god, that was terrifying. This wasn't fun at all, but it could still be an interesting game. I don't believe you were doing something bad. I just wanted to ask a bit about it, so I did. Sorry for making you uncomfortable, okay? I made sure Keiichi felt the sense of crisis, and then I left. Nobody can tell us apart. We're Mion and Shion, perfect twins. Notebook page 186. That one was nice, simple and straightforward. When I returned to the house, I saw a woman with an apron on. It was a housekeeper. Her name was Shimiko-san. The hag had a few housekeepers who took care of the chores around the house. Mion, I'm glad you're here. Hey, Shimiko, can I help you? Today was her turn to come help out at the house. She'd arrived, but the gate was locked and she couldn't get in. She'd called, but there was no answer, so she'd just been standing there, not knowing what to do. Something must have happened to Granny the Fizzle. She's been in an evil mood since last night. I see. Shimiko tried to remember if she'd done something wrong. She isn't ignoring you. She's probably just sleeping. She was up until very late. I bet she can't wake up yet. You know how she is, right? Once she gets into this mood, it'll take a while for her to be happy again. Yeah, that's too bad. I think it might be better if you don't show up for a while. Even if you don't mean to upset her, Granny might take it the wrong way. Just let me take care of it. I see, are you sure? I'm very grateful, though. Sorry to make you do this. Could you let the other housekeepers know they don't need to come for a while either? When Granny feels better, I'll give you a call. Let's leave her alone for now. Chimiko bowed, then left on her bicycle. Anyone who'd ever experienced Granny's wrath would understand. Hey, you just like, oh, I'm in danger from her? I don't know why. Oh, fuck it, I'm gone. I headed into Mion's room, set her alarm clock for 2 p.m., and crawled into her bed. I needed to recover quickly. I had to be sharp, calm, and cool-headed. School would be out by 2. Maybe I'd get in touch with Keiichi. I'd have to call him. Wait, school gets out at 2? Really? That's an early... I mean, they do go to school 6 days a week, right? In Japan, you go to school 6 days a week, and the 6 days a half day, so... School getting out at 2? Okay. You're saving, what, 5 hours? It's still more class than usual, but at least you're not... At least school's not going to 3, right? My school usually ended at 3-ish. So there'd be a staff meeting at the Furude Shrine Assembly Hall in the evening. All the leaders of the 3 families, their relatives, and the town council members would gather at this meeting. They were all authority figures in Hinamizawa. I'd be attending in place of the hag who was sick. I'd worry about the rest when I got there. People shouldn't notice that Mion and the hag were missing for a long time. I didn't need to worry as I had plenty of time. I checked the alarm once more and fell asleep as if someone switched me off. Boop. Power down. Hello? This is Sonozaki. Well, the younger one. Hello. You have time to talk right now? Shion? I thought you'd be sleeping in today with a hangover, same as Mion. What? Oh, I just had a hangover? That's so like her. Keiichi had no idea the Mion he saw earlier was actually me. He didn't notice when we talked in person, so there's no way he'd notice on the phone. I never knew that playing 2 roles would be so much fun. To feel such enjoyment in this game of life or death, maybe I was getting used to this. Or maybe my senses were going numb. I mean, that's still exciting, right? Tricking people into thinking you're your twin. Seems like it would be fun, right? A fun gimmick here and there. Sorry, my parents are waiting for an important call. I can't talk for too long. What do you need? Well, there's something I want to talk to you about, but if you can't talk long, I guess that's that. How about we meet in person? If you could show me where the library is too, that'd be great. I mean, the library near the station? Yeah, that's fine. I go past there on my way to work anyway. We decided to meet in Okonomiya. It wasn't easy to get there from Hinamizawa. But I had to hurry. I couldn't run into Keiichi as he was heading there himself. I recalled that the key to the hag's motorcycle was in her secret drawer. The hag usually got driven around for public events, but when she had her own errands, she rode her motorcycle, and Keiichi, I assumed, was going to ride his bicycle, so I tried to get to Okonomiya before he did. And as an added bonus, you won't look exhausted when you're racing. Keiichi arrived quite a bit later than me. Motorcycles are faster after all. There's hardly any traffic lights to worry about on the way there either. Yeah, it's a country road, right? You just... Wow, Mion never keeps her limits. I mean, honestly. Making my sister the standard for everything will get you in trouble. Oh, I remember this scene, so... You're a little unsteady. You were drinking last night too, weren't you? Don't try to hide it. You definitely went home from school early. Oh, too bad. I've been at home all day from the beginning. I'm smarter than my sis, after all. Hey now, I don't think you can call playing hooky smarter. You should finish your own errands first. We don't have that much time. We're gonna save the we're going to the library, right? Yeah, thanks. My mom had to return some books by today. Is the library far? No, it's right nearby. I meant it when I said we didn't have much time. I had to hurry a little. I was just going to talk to him on the phone, but I ended up coming all the way to Okonomiya. After our talk, Keiichi would slowly head back to Hinamizawa on his bicycle. I'd have to rush back there while making sure I didn't run into him. Otherwise, I couldn't make it on time for the meeting. Maybe I could be a little late, but since I needed her to hear everything they were going to discuss, I didn't want to be. This was the Shishibone Public Library. It was sizable, filled with a collection of moldy smelled books. But they did have air conditioning, and it was quiet. The perfect place for when you want to be alone. After Satoshi disappeared last year, I came here a lot to think about various things. So we're going to have this whole conversation. I think this is the one where Ueshi shows up. It's interesting. This is the first arc we are having where they're actually repeating scenes. After like the first half of this game, where it was all new scenes, we're going into scenes where we're seeing the exact same thing from a different person's perspective. It seems to be mimicking the second arc, very closely, to be honest. Which is really interesting, because I really like that last scene. These scenes with Keiichi are really interesting, because Keiichi was our protagonist for this other run through. This is where I first met Takano. I didn't want to run into her with Keiichi in tow, but then I remembered she was already dead. Convenient, didn't it? The first floor of the building was preoccupied by occupied with government offices. The library itself is on the second floor, so we had to walk up a huge staircase to get there. I tasted cool air on my skin as soon as I walked through the automated door. Oh, sounds so nice right now. Unlike outside, it was very quiet in here. The room temperature was both comfortable and suitable for books. Now, you don't want hot and humid for books. Not great. I could smell the scent of old pages. All libraries smelled the same. Keiichi walked up to the return table after he said so. Because it was a weekday, there was hardly anyone around. Remember, this is like the 80s, so not too much to do. No internet. It was very quiet. I was going to chat about some ordinary things and then move on to the main subject. After Keiichi returned the books, I invited him into the inner section of the library. Keiichi knew Mion well, but he didn't know me at all. He showed an interest in our life story. It was exactly where Takano told me about the true history of Hinamizawa a year ago, and I was going to tell him about things that were very similar to that. Did God have a sense of irony? How do you mention it? The toy store looked like it was managed by relatives as well. Does that mean they operate Angel Mort too? I told him why Sonozaki was so powerful in this area. I assumed that since he came from the city, there was a good chance he couldn't even begin to understand how one old family could literally control an entire area. Unless I explained to him how powerful they were, he wouldn't understand what kind of danger was barreling towards him. Oh my god. The family is particularly strong in finance and real estate. Even a bunch of the members of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry either have the last name Sonozaki or are their relatives. There's Sonozakis in the City Council and the Prefectural Assembly too, since they have the Okonomi area giving them strong electoral support. Wait a minute. This is escalating pretty quickly. Your relatives operate shops in downtown Okonomiya? They're strong in finance and real estate? People in the Chamber of Commerce and Industry are relatives? There's some elected to local offices? Keiichi counted with his fingers. He was surprised to hear all that about the Sonozaki family. It seemed he was flexible enough to accept even something that sounded outrageous to him. He was starting to understand things, although slowly. The way he viewed Shion Sonozaki was changing little by little too. That should be enough background information. Now I should go on to explain about Mion Sonozaki, the successor. Then I'd change the subject like Takano did with me. I'd go on to talk about the curse of Oyashiro-sama, then the series of mysterious deaths. So then, the Sonozaki family, it's pretty famous in this area. Yup. Crazy, innit? A man with a cigarette suddenly cut into our conversation. Uishi, why was he here? Hello, good afternoon. Are you on a date today? What I would give to be young again. Oh god, why is he here? But also, why did you run away from him? If you thought we were on a date, why are you bothering us? Uishi-san. What timing. It couldn't be a coincidence. I knew this man too well. He was crafty, sly, and clever. His presence here just can't be a coincidence. Did he see us in town and follow us? But why? Did he need something from me, Keiichi? Or perhaps the both of us? From what I could guess, I didn't think it was me he wanted something from. It was almost like he was trying to keep Keiichi away from me. Uishi was aware I gave false testimony to protect Satoshi last year. Maybe he didn't think he could talk to Keiichi if I was around. But why did he need to talk to Keiichi? It must be about the incident from yesterday. I was sure there was plenty of plainclothes officers at the festival, so they had to have seen who was last with the victims. In other words, Keiichi and me. But Uishi knew I was hard to deal with. That was why he was focusing on Keiichi at present. That's fair. Why do you have to show up at a time like this, though? Yeah, pretty awkward from our perspective. Maimara-san, right? You're one tough guy. Two-timing the Sonozaki sisters, are you? I'm not two-timing anyone. Keiichi looked at me, hoping for assistance. He blushed, and the way he panicked reminded me of Satoshi. That aside, this wasn't going well. Uishi might even start talking about my relationship with Satoshi. I didn't want him to, nor did I want Keiichi to have any preconceptions. Uishi took a quick glance at me. His eyes told me something. He was purposely talking about things I'd rather not talk about. He's basically telling me leave or he'll continue on to something that was worse than what we're currently talking about. He didn't use words, but his eyes clearly communicated that anyway. Big fat weasel. Damn it. I'm sorry, Kei-chan. I really do need to get to my job. What? Oh, you do? I realized I couldn't achieve anything like this, even if I stayed longer, so I used my part-time job as an excuse to leave. Uishi looked at me and grinned. Damn it. He won today, but I'll win next time. Wait, did you have something to talk about today, Shion? Yep, I'll see you later. Oh, I'll give you a call after I'm done. It'll be okay to call me at night, right? Call at night, right? Yeah. Probably okay. I'll talk to you later tonight. Bye! Alright. Well, that's awkward. We did want to talk to him and get him on our side. So, this is how the confusion starts. We cause him to be paranoid by pretending to be Mion and speaking with information that only Shion would know. And he gets more and more terrified of this seemingly omnipotent Mion, who's actually Shion. Oh my god, this is quite the twist. The hag's motorcycle had become my primary means of transportation. My next stop was the staff meeting at Furude Shrine's assembly hall. It was easy to imagine how a normal meeting would play out if we were just celebrating the end of Watanagashi. But today's meeting was likely going to be strained as the Sonozaki family councils. Yes, this staff meeting was going to deal with the heart of Hinamizawa. I couldn't let my guard down even for a minute. I rested for a while at the house, and then left for the meeting. Up the long stairs to Furude Shrine we go. At the top I saw some elderly men smoking in front of the hall. Since they had a minor fire a long time ago, it had been made into a non-smoking area. Is that Mion-chan? The head of the Kimiyoshi family, Uncle Kimiyoshi, noticed me and waved. He must have not expected Mion to come alone. Normally it would have been either the hag by herself or Mion tagging along as an assistant. Granny's been in a terrible mood since the incident last night. She's been staying in bed and wouldn't even let me get near her. They all understood how troublesome she was when she was in a bad mood. They smiled bitterly in sympathy. Dude, you need to watch what you're saying though. You need to really watch what you're saying, Shion. The random things you say will cause people to act because you're acting as the mouthpiece for fucking Oryu, right? So you're here as the Sonozaki family representative then? Has Oryu told you anything? Sort of. What do you mean by has Oryu told you anything? The line by itself didn't explain much. The staff meeting was usually held by the mayor, the head of the Kimiyoshi family, and he'd asked me as the substitute for the Sonozaki families if I'd heard anything from her. I then realized who was supposed to be leading today's staff meeting. Whoops. Whoops, guys! Oh, we have a staff meeting today, and I'm supposed to be leading it, and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Kimiyoshi-san, do I really have to lead the meeting today? According to the ranking order at the family councils, any substitute for the Sonozaki family head is above the Kimiyoshi family head. In other words, I'd have to lead today's meeting. There was no way I could do that. Yeah, basically, there's no way you do that. No way. Don't worry, I'll do it. You can just take a seat, Mion-chan. If there's something you've heard of from Oryu, just let us know, okay? Kimiyoshi, why don't we get started? Everyone's here now. The smokers put out their cigarettes and went back into the hall. And she's really got to watch what she's doing here. The tables were set in a horseshoe shape, and I was told to sit next to the chair reserved for the chief. So, I guess this meeting might give us some information. This is a new scene, and we don't know what occurred at the meeting, because Kimiyoshi disappears after this meeting. The seat opposite mine was empty. Considering its location, it was probably for the Furude family head, Rika Furude. Somebody had said earlier that everybody was already here. Either Rika had called in absent, or the empty seat was just a formality. Knowing the subject of this meeting, I don't think that the Furude family head would even want to attend. Even if Rika actually attended, she wouldn't be able to say anything. All she'd usually do at the family councils was draw pictures on a notepad. She'd probably end up drawing pictures in this meeting too. Besides, they probably didn't want her to hear anything unpleasant. In this way, the empty Furude family seat was easily explained. When everyone was seated, the head of the Women's Association served tea. She gave me an evil look, trying to tell me to help out. I got up and did so. And after that, everyone fell quiet and the secretary stood up. Everyone, thank you for coming today on such short notice. Despite your busy schedules, let's start with a few words from the mayor. Go ahead, please. Please excuse me for staying seated. Ken-chan, you stay seated too. Thank you all for coming today. You did a great job at Utanagashi yesterday. The festival was a great success as usual, and there weren't any mishaps. Lots of villagers came, and I believe it went great, on the whole. Let me see, how many people was it? According to the Imperial General Headquarters report, approximately 5,000 people showed up. Everyone laughed except me. I hope we'll continue to work together to carry on this tradition. Got school in a few hours. Well, take care. Take care, my dude. Have a great night. I hope we'll continue to work together to carry on this tradition, and I appreciate your cooperation. Clap, 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 clap. It's your usual meeting. And applause with only 8 people doesn't sound that great. For small meetings with clapping, not great. Let's move on to today's proceedings. Kimiyoshi will lead the meeting today. Please applaud if you approve. Clap, clap, clap. Thank you. With your approval, Kimiyoshi will take over. Please go ahead. Thank you, Ken-chan. Let's start now. Sorry, could you close the curtains? Does Kimiyoshi get disappeared because she said Oryu was angry about what happened last night? That might be why he gets disappeared. She doesn't know who... Like, she's saying she's angry, but she's trying to cover for herself and the fact that Oryu's dead. She might have actually be getting people killed by saying Oryu's fucking tilted. Everyone closed the curtains nearest to them. The sun was still up, but with all the curtains closed, the room became very dark. The village chief explained the details of the incident as well as what went on with the police. A police vehicle discovered Tomatake's body on its way back to Okonomiya last night. Uishi's special curse unit was standing by, expecting something to happen for the 5th time, so they responded very quickly. Since Tomatake and Takano were rarely apart, Uishi got in touch with the neighboring prefectural police departments and asked them to look for her. As a result, they found a burned body of a woman in the mountains of the Gifu prefecture, and the body was then identified as Mio Takano. Considering the circumstances, the police labeled the incident as the 5th of the ongoing series of mysterious deaths. When he finished, there was dead silence. I watched to see who would speak first. Nobody said a thing. And then I noticed Kimiyoshi looking at me. This is where the head of the family would speak. Mion-chan, has Oryu said anything about this whole thing? Everyone looked in my direction. I was sure they could see the hag in me. I'm Mion Sonozaki, acting head of the Sonozaki family. I'm here in place of Oryu, the current head. Thank you for having me. I became Mion. I tried to become as cold and unfeeling as the Mion I witnessed a year ago. That cold version of Mion was inside me. It was me. I was her. Unfortunately, the curse has come to pass for the 5th time. This is deeply regretful. Everyone was held captive by my words. I wasn't a little girl anymore. The hag was speaking through my mouth. They all heard me and trembled in fear. Does anyone know why the curse happened again this year? After my question, everyone whispered to each other. I will tell you, it was because they broke the rule of the ritual storehouse and desecrated the sacred ground within. How dare they? A few elderly men got up and yelled. The fools! I can't believe it! They deserve to be killed! Oh, Yashiro, please calm your anger. My, oh my, how did that happen? Oh, Yashiro-san, this is why we hate outsiders. They just don't think they're too stupid. They got what they deserved. It's their own fault. The angry old men yelled even as they trembled in fear. Their sudden change scared me more than a little. Even Uncle Kimiyoshi, who was usually so gentle and sweet, became like a demon of war, cursing those who broke the rule of the ritual storehouse. It had become like a raging ocean inside the assembly hall. Their yells spun about like a whirlpool. They roared, crashed, and howled. Even while doing nothing but watch, I could feel myself turning pale. Mion threatened me yesterday, and Kasai had been shocked this morning. What I saw before me was similar to that. Even the sweet and gentle Uncle Kimiyoshi was saying they deserved to die. I was fearful of the sudden change in those elderly men. And more than anything, the fact that they believed those people deserved to die for trespassing is what terrified me. It wasn't just that, of course. The real thing I was scared of was that I was one of the people they wanted dead. In other words, it was almost like they were telling me to die of the curse. If they were to find out I snuck into the storehouse, it was possible they'd strangle me on the spot. Actually, they may not kill me that easily. I mean, right? This is a family meeting, and half the fucking elders of the family were with you in the torture room when you were getting tortured. So yeah, it's pretty risky. The people in this room were true believers in Oyashiro-sama, just like the hag. They wouldn't hesitate to murder anyone who made Oyashiro-sama angry on his behalf. And even if they didn't carry out the killings themselves, they'd pretend they didn't see anything. Not even if my head was cut off right in front of them. Everyone here would act in collusion and say I never attended. If they all testified that they waited and I didn't show, I'd be demoned away. It'd be far too easy for them to erase someone and have them disappear. There was no mistake. The people linking the hag and the curse were definitely here at this meeting. I continued speaking. I was Mion, after all. I was on the side responsible for the curse. Therefore, at the moment, I didn't need to worry about anything. Nobody could tell the difference between Mion and me. That's what would keep me safe. Please be silent. Quiet down. Uncle Kimiyoshi held me quiet, everyone, but his tone was violent. He really scared me. Everyone gradually became silent. It was, in fact, 4 people who snuck into the storehouse. 2 more remained. People once more became restless upon hearing that, but Uncle Kimiyoshi yelled at them again and they settled down. Why are you specifying things like this? You're giving everyone so much ammunition. Tomitaka and Takano were old enough to be made responsible for their own poor judgment. As a result, the curse fell upon them immediately, but the other 2 were simply children. The curse has yet to fall upon them, but there will be some kind of punishment. Everyone stayed quiet at the time. They all turned genuinely pale, trying not to miss a word I said. After all, they were all thinking the kids I mentioned could be their own relatives or even grandchildren. They wanted to know who they were to put their minds at ease. The other 2 who snuck into the storehouse were Shion Sonozaki and Keiichi Maibara. I could feel the air getting drier. It was so dry it almost felt like it was going to start making a crackling noise. Why is she... I mean, maybe she's trying... I don't know what she's trying to do, but this is really going to backfire, right? It was so dry it felt like it was going to start making a crackling noise. But like, dude... Oh my goodness. Shion. Shion has already... I couldn't even hear the old people breathe. I took a peek at Kimiyoshi, who was sitting next to me. He adored Shion as if she were his own granddaughter, but she'd been demoned away. I wanted to see how distressed and sad he'd look. And when I saw his face, I felt a sensation on my back as if my skin itself was making a cracking noise. He didn't even have an expression on his face. He adored me. I loved him, and thought he loved me too. And that was why I expected him to be saddened after learning that I met with such a cruel fate. But what was I thinking? The memory of his warm smile shattered inside of me. There was no way of describing the fear I experienced in that moment. In mere words, he suddenly changed into someone I didn't even recognize. He noticed me looking at him and spoke. What about Keiichi? Not yet. I had to take a deep breath to regain my composure. All 4 who snuck into the ritual storehouse will suffer the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Keiichi Maibara is no exception. Chilling looks. Cruel looks. Emotionless looks. Again, she's speaking as Oryu. Man, she's getting him fucking killed. That's rough. Rude looks. And the looks of people who are about to snap. I could feel the demons chewing my words while they stared at me with their sharp eyes. Although he doesn't actually die if this is the recreation of the second arc. I could see some of them sticking their snake-like tongues in and out. I could see the flames in some of their eyes. They were memorizing the names of the intruder the curse had yet to fall upon. And so the meeting went on. We were told to not tell the police too much, to report what they asked of us, and to hold another meeting whenever something of significance happened. If something unexpected took place, we were to get in touch with either the head of the Kimiyoshis or the head of the Sonozakis for instructions on what to do. With those closing remarks, the meeting was over. Kimiyoshi tries to talk to her, right? It was getting dark outside. Being in a valley surrounded by mountains, once the sun went down in Hinamizawa, it got dark quickly. Even though it was hot during the day, it had cooled down quickly at night. The elderly said goodbye to each other and left on their bicycles, on their motorcycles, or in their cars. Kimiyoshi waved them goodbye and started heading home himself, but I called out to him. Kimiyoshi, do you have plans after this? I called him Kimiyoshi-san instead of Uncle Kimiyoshi. He stopped. No, I don't have anything planned. Can you stop by my house? Does Oryu want to see me? Yes, she wants to talk to you about something in person. Okay, I'll stop by. Uncle Kimiyoshi arrived at the Sonozaki house. Wait a minute. Hey, I want to stop for 1 second. Why is she inviting Kimiyoshi over? This wasn't part of her plan. What are you thinking, Shion? What is Shion thinking here? What is Shion thinking right here? She's like, okay, uh, I got them on a fucking witch hunt for Keiichi, but why am I inviting Kimiyoshi to Oryu's house when I know Oryu's not here? It seems unusual. Is she going to kill Kimiyoshi as well? I'm not sure why she would kill him. Maybe she's killing him because she's mad he doesn't even care that she's dead? Like she's killed someone and now she's just like getting really violent now? Kimiyoshi arrived at the Sonozaki house. He often came to the house to have secret meetings with the hag, so he wasn't suspicious at all. I invited him into the living room. I served him a cup of tea and told him I was going to fetch the hag. I left the room and killed some time down the hallway. Granny will be here after she gets dressed. She might take a little while. That's fine. I'll just wait. Kimiyoshi relaxed as he sipped his cup of tea, and I sat next to him. I think she wants to talk to you about Shion. I mentioned my name and watched for his reaction. He looked so grim, I couldn't even tell if he heard me. I decided to continue speaking until he reacted in some way. Remember the incident from last year with Shion, yes? She became friendly with people of the Hojo family. She was forgiven after ripping out her nails, wasn't she? Yes, 3 nails. Kimiyoshi folded his arms and thought for a while. Where's Shion-chan now? In the basement. How's she doing? Uncle Yoshi sounded worried. When I heard that, I felt relieved he was on my side. His anger in the assembly hall was just an act. She's been crying. Mion, tell me, what's Oryu going to do with her? She hasn't told me any details. As you know, Granny becomes awfully quiet when she's truly furious. Going into the ritual storehouse. Furthermore, her own granddaughter. That's a tough decision to make. Uncle Kimiyoshi thought the hag must be unsure of what to do with Shion. What do you think? What do you think will happen to Shion? Well, I'm sure it'll be far more than just 3 nails this time. Knowing how Oryu is, she won't hold back just because it's her granddaughter. Actually, she might be more harsh, especially since they're related. She did go into the ritual storehouse. Not something that can be forgiven so easily. Indeed. It's sacred, after all. But in a way, maybe it's not fair to Shion. She's been away from Hinami's, as you know. I'm sure she knew she wasn't supposed to trespass, but maybe she didn't know how forbidden it was. It's true. Poor Shion. Other than the tattoo on my back, how would you tell the difference between Shion and me? There isn't one. There's no point in distinguishing between Mion and Shion in the first place. Twins are proof of bad luck. One should be eliminated as soon as they are born. Such is the family precept. The hag actually put her hands around my neck right after I came out of the womb. That's how the story went, at least. In the end, the hag didn't kill me, but instead pretended I didn't exist. She forced herself to call one of us Mion, and either Shion, she adored Mion and hated Shion. My sister and I never understood why we had to go through that. We didn't care who was Mion or Shion. So one day, we came up with an idea. We decided to share the joy Mion experienced and the sadness Shion experienced. We often switched places. We were both Mion at the same time. We were both Shion. Adults around us tried to put different clothes on us or style our hair differently so they could tell us apart. But that was utter nonsense. No matter what they did, all we had to do was switch places and nobody could tell us apart. And finally, they decided that we switched places because we were always together. On that day, Shion got to go to an amusement park. Since then, we've been separated. Mion. Can't even imagine what'll happen to Shion. Whatever it is Granny decides to do, I'm not in a position to say anything about it. She doesn't listen to her relatives. You're right. That's something Oryu needs to work on. If Shion wasn't Shion Sonozaki, she'd have been dead a long time ago. I can't even begin to imagine what kind of punishment might be equal to death. Even if she isn't killed, she'll probably never see the light of day again. In other words, she'll be demoned away. Yeah. Does Shion regret what she's done? Yeah. In response, Kimiyoshi tapped my shoulder and then slapped his own chest. He smiled reliably. Don't worry. If Shion feels bad about what she's done, she won't be demoned away. Leave it to me. Really? I'm sure Oryu would be furious to hear me say anything, but I won't give up. I'll explain to her that Shion regrets what she's done. I'll beg her for forgiveness. Tears began to fall from my eyes. I knew it. Uncle Kimiyoshi really was my ally after all. He said he'd forgive Shion. He was my ally. I was so very happy. Are you sure? Are you sure she won't be demoned away like Satoshi last year? Uncle Kimiyoshi smiled reliably again and told me he's a brat of the Hojo. This is Shion we're talking about. Of course she'll be forgiven. spread of the Hojo. Are you talking about Satoshi? Last year's victim? Those Hojo people. They're traitors who tried to sell out the whole village. Of course he got demoned away. He's a Hojo after all. The Hojo? The Hojo people should all be cursed. Only people like them get demoned away. Shion will be fine. It won't happen to someone like her. Uncle? Didn't Shion take care of that for Satoshi last year? Wasn't he supposed to be forgiven? Take care of that? What do you mean? Remember 3 nails? She removed 3 of her nails? Kasai, Uncle Yoshiro, and Satoshi? 3 people? You removed 3 nails for 3 people? Eh? Oh, so that was why it was 3 nails, huh? What? Wasn't that the significance of those 3 nails? You're right. There were 3 people involved, hence 3 nails. I heard that too, but what? Kasai, Yoshiro, and Shion. That makes 3. What? 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 Huh? But I endured excruciating pain. The first was my left pinky, then the ring finger, and the middle finger. People held me down so I couldn't move. I had to endure 3 nails. I didn't know which nail was for Satoshi. If my middle finger was Satoshi, I'd have to endure till the middle finger was done so he could be forgiven. That's why I endured. Even Mion said afterwards, everything was forgiven. What? Mion, didn't you say Satoshi was forgiven? Didn't you? That's what I heard. I think that's what I heard. Or did I? Oh man. It's not gonna end well. I can see why she's fucking pissed. Because Oryu tortured her and killed Satoshi. Or now she knows. Now she's super pissed because she knows she had 3 of her fingernails ripped out to save Satoshi, and she's not she's now he's claiming that Oryu never made that offer and the offer was actually to save herself, and that Satoshi was gonna die no matter what. And she's like, and not only that, Kimiyoshi also wanted Satoshi fucking dead. I felt the air move. There shouldn't have been a breeze in that room, but I felt it anyway. The cool air stroked the back of my neck, and that was when my true self stood up right behind me and nodded. Although there was no wind, my hair billowed. The burning wickedness buried deep inside my eyes became visible. Why do you think Satoshi got demoned away? Satoshi's parents did in fact try to sell out the village. They deserved the curse. But Satoshi was simply their son. What has he done? Mion? I'm asking you what kind of crime Satoshi committed. You said earlier he deserved to be demoned away because he was born to the Hojo family. But what has he done to deserve being demoned away? Kimiyoshi didn't know what to say to the sudden question. He seemed dismayed. I didn't hear it say it, but I know. It was Oryu's decision. She decided the curse would fall on all the Hojos. Well, there you have it, guys. If there was any question in this arc who was doing things, which there shouldn't have been. Straight from the horse's mouth. All the Hojos. Wait, that's not true. Wait, didn't she decide it? No, she didn't. The curse is falling on the Hojo family? I remember talking about something like that, but we never decided that. No, nobody did. And why did you say? Because he's one of the Hojos earlier. Sorry, Mion. That was, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. That's just it. Anything that happens to the Hojo family is the curse. As long as someone has the Hojo name, nobody cares what happens to that person. The idea has spread like a virus amongst all the villagers. It doesn't matter if Satoshi did anything wrong or not, because he was a Hojo who was filthy, and that infection of an idea is the entire problem. And you all believed in that. You couldn't even think straight anymore. I can't forgive you, and I can't let someone like you exist. People like you cornered Satoshi and his family. Poor Satoshi, what had he done? He hadn't done anything. He was a Hojo, that's all. What kind of crime is that? Why did the curse fall on him, and what crime has he committed? Ah! Kimiyoshi's upper body bent backwards and fell onto the floor. That was that. I put my stun gun back in my pocket. Sorry, Shion. What was that you just said? Apparently Takano and Tomitaki died last night. Takano was found burned to death. Tomitaki, well, it looked like a suicide. I found it this morning. I heard my father talking to a relative on the phone about it. As I thought, Keiichi didn't know anything about what happened after the festival. Of course, it's not getting reported by the media. That's how it was in the past, too. Keiichi insisted, unless he heard about it on the news, it couldn't be real. But the investigations into the series of mysterious deaths are done in secret now. Of course he didn't hear about that on the news. I heard the mayor and several important politicians from the Sonozaki all put all the pressure they could on the police. You mean their deaths are going to be dealt with in total secrecy? That's how it is. Of course the police are still investigating, and that being performed in secret too, so I hear the investigation itself is very restricted in what it can and can't do. You could say they're interfering with the police investigation. I can't believe it. People died and they're dealing with it in secret? If we break it down further, it means no matter who dies on the night of Watanagashi, it won't go public. That's the biggest pile of BS I've ever heard. Kei-chan, remember how I said before the villagers could be the ones carrying out the curse? That's what I mean. At some point a tradition was created here in Hinamizawa, where every year you're allowed to kill one person on the night of Watanagashi. Yep. That's the truth about the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa, also known as the Curse of Oyashiro-sama. On the day of Watanagashi, 2 people are killed. The perpetrators are using the curse as an excuse to kill one person and make another disappear, and that's why the curse takes place. That's what happens in Hinamizawa, and that's what happens with the curse. What Kimiyoshi said is all true. Infecting everyone with the idea that the enemy from the dam conflict deserves to die was the root of all this. That was the system of vague commands used in the Sonozaki family, created by its head, Oryu. One thing that must be mentioned about the command system is that the person giving the orders and the one executing them doesn't need to interact in any way. Though Oryu is commander, she never gives actual orders. She only had to expect something to happen. Every single one of the family council members around her would want to satisfy that expectation if given the chance. They didn't have to be proactive about satisfying it. It could be passive. When the chance arose, anyone who knew Oryu's intentions would become the one to execute her order. And therefore Oryu would never know who actually executed her order, and none of her relatives would know it either. But they all knew things would just conclude as she wanted, and they could assume it was one of their own who did it. This passive support system was thoroughly effective, and it spread all over the village. Its ties became tighter after the dam conflict. Anyone could be the one to execute Oryu's orders. Therefore, everyone supported each other. If someone did something, others would try to satisfy Oryu's expectations in different ways. For example, they'd come up with false evidence or otherwise passively interfere with an investigation. Even if they didn't know exactly who they were protecting, they'd still work together to protect whoever it was. Yes, I'd finally figured out how it all worked. Phrased in a more organized manner, it would go as follows. The system of killing 2 people who are unwanted each year requires 3 elements. First, a region of solidarity. It was created during the long and unique history of Hinamizawa. The villagers' bonds became tighter during the dam conflict. That was one condition for this place to have a curse. It was an element already in the region, not one that could be created. The next was having the same moral standards. This was an important element as the curse couldn't happen without it. And this was created by Oryu Sonozaki herself. That's why she could claim this system was established by her own will. Having the same moral standards meant everyone acknowledges the same enemy, and when everyone in the villages joined together, it would be meaningless if they didn't know who the enemy was. During the conflict, she made the identity of the enemy clear to everyone. They couldn't say they were against the dam construction, and that the government was the enemy. That wasn't clear enough. The government didn't really pinpoint who the enemy was. The government's too vague. Oryu made enemies out of the construction site itself, and therefore its manager. She chose targets the villagers could see with their own eyes. They were clear and easy to understand. The villagers acknowledged everyone at the dam construction site was their enemy, and that the construction site manager was the enemy commander. This is... Alright, so I can see why Kimiyoshi's dying. Are we going to also kill Rika because she stumbled upon us by, like, sheer luck? Using the same method, she labeled one after another as an enemy of the village, practically cataloging a list of enemies to print into the villagers' minds. Earlier I used the term infecting for this phenomenon. Those infected by this idea were people unconsciously giving the order to commit murder. When the infection spread across the village, when all of Hinamizawa's residents acknowledged the same enemy, that's when Hinamizawa itself became a murderer. Or you combine these elements, solidarity in the region and same moral standards, and selected the enemy, spreading the notion throughout the village. The law would normally have punished both one who committed the crime and one who gave the order, but Oryu's system didn't require an order. Oryu just had to become concerned with the enemy she pre-selected. That alone wouldn't cause the curse to take place, though. Her concern was like a safety device, and even when the safety device was off, the curse wouldn't occur unless there was a finger to pull the trigger. The last necessary element was a date for execution. The night of Watanagashi, the night to venerate Oyashiro-sama, guardian deity of the city. On that night, the curse falls on 2 enemies of the village, and they disappear. Everyone in the village acknowledges it as fact. In other words, if the same incident takes place on any of the other 364 nights, it would be nothing other than a murder case. But if it happened on Watanagashi, it would transform into the curse of Oyashiro-sama. The idea that villagers were allowed to kill their enemies on the night of Watanagashi infected them. The villagers were the cells of this huge creature called Kanamizawa, and each cell would be taught who the enemy was. A set date was a green light for whoever was in the best position to kill the enemy. This was the truth of the curse of Oyashiro-sama, and therefore the one who killed Satoshi isn't my enemy. The one who set up this system and the one who named Satoshi's family as the enemy is my enemy. You know, I can see that. I would still... I don't know if I would kill Kimiyoshi here. It'd be a bit iffy. I don't know if I'd want to kill Kimiyoshi, but... whatever. I feel like she's having a mental breakdown right now, so whatever. She's having like an extended mental break where she's like fuck all this, fuck all you people. She's finally snapped, right? Like, she's... how's it going, Angora? She's like she's been living in this shitty controlling system ruled by her tyrannical grandmother for so long that she just sees fucking everyone in the system as the enemy and wants to fucking end them if they support it. I can see why she sees that. I can see why she thinks that way. To use a broader definition, Hinamizawa itself and the system of Oyashiro-sama's curse are my enemy. I'd already killed the hag, the one who designed the system. Kimiyoshi, whose job it is to infect the villagers with the system, is already in my hands. I just have to find out who else was involved and how much. It was like pulling a weed while being careful not to break the roots. I announced Keiichi was one of the people who snuck into the shrine storage. I was certain the fact had spread through the underside of the village. In other words, Keiichi was an object of the curse now. Takano and Tomitake were found dead, having been killed in gruesome ways. That was the curse of Oyashiro-sama. In that case, they could demon away 2 more people as sacrifices to claim the anger of Oyashiro. The set date for the curse was already over, but just like what happened to Satoshi, demoning away was allowed a little extra time. Something would happen to Keiichi within a few days. I'd wait patiently. Careful not to let my enemy simply take Keiichi Maibara. My bait! Keiichi had been yelling on the other end of the phone for some time. He kept yelling he didn't want to go into the ritual storehouse to begin with. He claimed he was simply invited by Takano and me. He shouldn't be in danger because of that, he said. He was feeling the sense of crisis and tension. This is going to work. The livelier the bait, the easier it is to spot. The hell did you do that? I didn't have anything to do with this. What will you do? What are you going to do, damn it? How are you going to take responsibility for this, huh? You listen to... Shut up. I heard enough of your pitiful tears, and I hung up the phone. There was no point in talking to him when he got like that. I had already achieved my goal, which was to make him realize the danger awaiting him. I took a deep breath and called the house of the village chief. Hello, Kimiyoshi residence. This is Sonozaki, so? Did you find the mayor? Oh, it's you, Mion-chan. We've been calling everyone, but no luck. We can't find him. I don't know who else to call. I wonder where he is. We called a few places too, but nothing. I talked to Granny. She says we should have the youth group look for him. At this time of day, we aren't even sure if he's really missing. It's right after Watanagashi. She thinks we should be cautious. The youth group can't find him. We should call the police first thing in the morning. We'd rather not get the police involved unless we really have to, though. Did Oryu say that? Yes. If you don't believe me, I'll have her get on the phone. Oh, no. I understand. Okay, we'll gather the youth group and look for him. If they can't find him, we'll call the police in the morning. Please call the leader of the youth group then. I'll be right over in Granny's place. Thank you. I'll get everyone together right away. Okay. See you later. The youth group gathered at the Furude Shrine. They were going to find the mayor. I also had to go in absence of the hag. But where is... Just to be mean, I stopped by the underground torture room to let the mayor know I was headed to the shrine to search for him. Incidentally, according to the tab on the keychain, this underground torture room was actually called the Underground Storehouse for Ritual Implements. This was the man who was yelling that whoever trespasses on the ritual storehouse should be killed. Although it was an underground ritual storehouse, he was there now, atoning for what he had done. Irony. It was pretty ironic. Maybe I was the only one who felt that way, though. How are you doing, Uncle Kimiyoshi? He didn't say a word, but he made a noise with the chain. Everyone's making a fuss because they can't find you. Your family called me, so I suggested they gather the youth group to look for you. Heading over there now. Was this mean, or what? Kimiyoshi could only make noise with the chain. He couldn't even express any emotion other than anguish. Is the chain too short? Why don't I make it longer every time you give me an answer to a question? If it's even a little longer, you'll feel better. Kimiyoshi's hands were tied behind his back with a tight wire. He was wearing a leather collar with a chain, which was strapped tightly around his neck, too. The chain was on a pulley attached to the ceiling, with the chain pulling him up to it. The chain was short and pulled very tight. He had to stand on his tiptoes to breathe. He'd been like that for almost an hour already. He was already exhausted. If I left him overnight, he'd probably end up hanging himself. You told me earlier you didn't know. But I'll ask you one more time. Please tell me anything you know about Satoshi Hojo-kun. Sorry. You can't even talk, can you? I'll loosen the chain a bit while we chat then. I turned the pulley a little to loosen the chain that was pulling on his neck. His heels finally touched the ground, relieving pressure on his muscles. I really don't know, Shion. I really don't. Don't you even know if he's dead or alive? I really don't know anything. Well, I guess that's how the curse system of Hinamizawa works. It's possible you really don't know anything. I'll change the question. As the head of the Kimiyoshis, I'd like you to tell me what you think happened to Satoshi. Is Satoshi dead or alive? Kimiyoshi didn't know what to say. If he said he didn't know, I'd tighten the chain and leave the room. That'd be like a death sentence for him. But all I said was I wanted him to speak as head of the Kimiyoshi family. I didn't ask him to tell the truth. But he didn't know what to say to avoid souring my mood and to get me to loosen the chains around him. He's obviously trying to figure out how to make me extend the chain. I've heard a rumor he might be alive. About him going to Tokyo on the bullet train. The police. They saw him in Tokyo or something. Uishi told me Satoshi had been witnessed getting on a bullet train, headed to Tokyo at Nagoya Station. But the police didn't know if that happened or what became of Satoshi after that. Therefore, this was simply a random assertion of Kimiyoshi's. Head of the Kimiyoshi family? What would be the point in letting one of the cursed family members live after going through the trouble of making him disappear? I don't think there's a reason for that. Besides, who gave you this information? I was in close contact with Uishi for a while, and he never mentioned it to me. Uncle? If you're saying this to make me happy, it's not going to work. You know that, don't you? I reached for the pulley controlling the chains around Kimiyoshi, and the act sent him panicking as he feared it tightening with... Sorry, I'm not trying to make you angry, Shion. I'm sorry. I don't have time for this. I'm simply asking you to help me look for Satoshi, that's all. I know. I'll answer you. I took my hand off the pulley. Seeing that, Kimiyoshi began making loud groaning noises to try and show he's thinking hard. Be frank with me. Do you think he's alive? Or dead? I think you should think he's alive. Figures. There's no point in letting him live, right? I agree with you. I didn't mean anything too deep by it. But what I said truly scared him. Oh, it's Gotcha Devil. What's up? He looks like how House is Xenon begged to let him live. Satoshi looks like Yang Guifei. That'd be interesting. An interesting thought. The police think he ran using the money he saved to buy Satoga's birthday present because he is the main suspect of his aunt's murder. What do you think about that? Oh, I heard the culprit was a drug addict. What do you think about that? Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I believe Satoshi's the culprit. The addict was probably a decoy the hag arranged. I suspected as much. Satoshi, the blonde Shota looks like an at least adult brunette. All right, an effeminate adult brunette, female specifically, a woman. I don't know about that. My eyesight may not be perfect. I might have a pair of glasses, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would mistake a blonde for a brunette. Like, regardless of like their body shape, I think you can get that part right. Hopefully. That guy appeared out of nowhere. I didn't understand at the time. He's a decoy. I'm pretty sure. Why do you think that though? The police were investigating the case. Satoshi was their primary suspect, right? He was going to be demoned away. She didn't want the police to continue the investigation, I guess. What Kimiyoshi just said is interesting. He's perfectly correct. If the police continue their investigation, it complicates things for whoever demons away Satoshi. Therefore, the hag came up with a decoy to bring an end to the investigation. Fabricating a suspect can't be easy, don't you agree? The only one who can do things like that is Oryu. I knew the hag's powerful in the underside of Hinamizawa, but I never knew she was that strong. That's pretty scary. Very strong. I'm sure you've heard quite a few rumors during the dam conflict. Didn't you also hear things directly? During the dam protests, I actually saw them issuing orders to my relatives, like, destroy their heavy machinery. Or, can we set up a checkpoint to blockade their construction vehicles? They set free their comrades from police by coming up with alibis, forging, or destroying evidence. I'd seen relatives do those things, as well as the hag calling in counselors to the house to protest, and as a child, I was impressed. But when I thought back, it was more than that. He was the mastermind who controlled the underside of the world. Again, everything Oryu does makes me more paranoid. I swear. You heard about the kidnapping case of the grandson, right? It really was a kidnapping? I heard the grandson was demoned away and then found in the middle of mountains in Yaguchi. That was at Oryu's command. The minister promised to stop the dam construction and the grandson was released. All the top people and ex-guardians know that. I guess I was right in the middle when it was happening, but I didn't notice. The hag, the 3 families, and the ex-guardians are truly magnificent, aren't they? How terrifying. Kimiyoshi finally realized the situation he was in, and he was answering my questions. He made me happy, but the more he told me the truth, the more I realized Satoshi really was dead, and that made me very sad. Who actually demoned him away? I don't know. We were never to ask who actually executed Oryu's orders. He was right. That was how the system worked. And so it was a bad question. Whoever it was did a great job, because his body hasn't been found. That's not easy. Putting aside who killed him, is it possible Oryu helped get rid of the body? You know, the well further down from here? The one used to dump the bodies? Dude, it's a lot safer to dump a body in the well than bury it in the mountains. Whoever disappears becomes a sacrifice to calm the anger of Oyashiro-sama. That's the rule of the game. Thus, the bodies cannot ever be discovered. That's why the bodies have to be dumped somewhere no one can find them, and it's very possible the well was used for that. Then Satoshi is at the bottom of that well? I grabbed a flashlight and headed to the huge cave with all the cells. As I turned on the lights in the cave, Mion noticed me and gave me a worried look. I ignored her and headed to the cell in the back. I was still very impressed by how the well was hidden. How well the well was hidden? I guess they didn't write it that way because it would have been really awkward, but that's how I wanted to read it. It was almost artistic. I shone the flashlight at the very bottom of the well. I had no way of knowing how deep the well was. The light of the flashlight wasn't strong enough to reach the bottom. I inhaled and screamed into the well, Satoshi! Satoshi! His name echoed again and again. It was obviously a deep well. I thought of climbing down using the wedges on the wall. With the flashlight hanging from my neck, I couldn't light my footing properly, and even if there was enough lighting, I didn't know if the wedges were sturdy enough. It would be like committing suicide. Satoshi was at the bottom of this well, and that's when I felt it. A warm hand rubbed my head for sure. Shion, you finally found me. Satoshi. 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 I've been looking for you for so long. I'm sorry I couldn't find you while you're still alive. I'm sorry. It's not your fault, Shion. There was nothing you could have done before I was killed. But you did everything you could after I was dead. Satoshi, I want to join you. I'm coming right now. I'm gonna jump. Please catch me. Satoshi smiled bitterly. I was saddened to see him reject me. Shion, I'm happy you found me, but you're alive, Shion. It's important to be alive. You can't waste it. If you aren't here, I don't want to live. I want to be with you, Satoshi. I want to be close to you. I want you to rub my head again. I want to spend time with you. I'll be a good girl. I want to be with you. Live. Do I have to? Live and enjoy your life, okay? What's so fun about living alone? You'll find out. As long as you're alive. To live. I'll live. I'll live. The eerie well now felt warm. I wasn't allowed to go to the bottom, but the edge of this well was the place where you and I could meet. Suddenly the well seems less ominous, although it is still a fairly ominous place. Mion, Satoshi, I found him. He's at the bottom of the well, isn't he? I think so. I can't think of anywhere else he'd be. Mion started to sob. You weren't there when Satoshi was killed, were you? No. If you were there, would you have begged the hag to forgive him? Yeah, I would have begged her to let him live. Liar. What? You liar! On that day a year ago, I just recalled how cruel Mion was then when she forced me to rip out my nails, acting in her role as the successor. Even if she was there when Satoshi was killed, she wouldn't have stopped being the successor. Satoshi was brought to the torture room, and when he saw Mion, I'm sure he thought she'd save him. Even as he heard the family head read out his death sentence, I'm sure he looked at Mion and believed she'd save him. He believed Mion was acting that way only because she was with her relatives. He believed she would help him, but she didn't do anything. He was strapped to a restraining device, and she still wouldn't do anything. Mion was cruel. Mion? Isn't it about time you helped me? I see. I get it. You're with the rest of the family members, you can't even show a hint of compassion. Yeah, Satoshi is super dead. We already know this. But Shion's learning it. Shion's getting all the information that we only had like hints and allusions at. Like, they alluded to this being his death, but we didn't know that for sure. We just knew that it was probably the case. And we knew, like, this is probably what happened. But, like, usually we only find out after the fact. Now we're in the middle of things. It sucks. Help him! Help him! Why? Why didn't you help him? You saw him looking at you, begging you to help him. Didn't you? Why didn't you help him? Even when he was going through a rough time because of his awful aunt, you didn't help him. You pretended to sympathize, but you didn't help him. You ignored him. He was cornered because you didn't help him. I tried to support him. Even when you didn't protect him from killing his aunt, I did. I sacrificed myself to fight for him. 3 nails were nothing. But it wasn't enough to rescue Satoshi. I couldn't help him. You know why? Because I was Shion then. As Shion, I was kept away from Hinamizawa, and no one told me anything. I couldn't know anything. But you were different. You were Mion. You were right in the middle of everything. You knew everything, and everyone told you everything. If I were you, I could have helped him. I would have, but you were Mion. Give it back, Mion. That name isn't yours. It's mine, too. It was mine to begin with, remember? I just let you be Mion. It was mine. Give it back to me. Give me my name back. I can't stand to have you even look like Mion. If I were Mion then, ha! Yandere 1 is back. There's the Yandere 2. I kicked the bars, and I kicked them again and again. Mion curled up fearfully in the back of the cell, as if she were trying to prevent the bars from crashing down on her. I mean, I would feel bad, but Mion does love torturing people, so... Mion's down with torturing people. Shion's down with torturing people. Actually, she hasn't tortured anyone yet. But she hasn't done any serious torture, I guess. I mean, the neck restraint's pretty rough. Neck restraint's pretty rough. But as long as it's for a short time, it's not gonna leave any lasting harm, right? It's still pretty bad. It's still pretty bad. I'll be honest. I'll be honest, it's pretty bad. Alright. Mion's curling up, play and check it. Now it's Mion's time to curl up. I feel like she's feeling a little bit vindicated right now. Or a little bit of vindication, or maybe if you like satisfaction from whatever revenge she's feeling. That's, I think, the goal. Yeah, it's pretty rough. I don't know. An hour on your toes is pretty rough. It's pretty rough. But I feel like an hour on your toes is rough, but it's also not like threatening your whole family, and it's also not threatening, sorry, not your family, threatening every single one of your friends with death, killing someone, actually killing someone, although he's probably gonna die, and like ripping someone's fingernails out to appease you. Cause like she just had her fingernails ripped out for someone's entertainment. Like, oh, you're annoying to me. I'm gonna have your fingernails ripped out. Like that's pretty fucked up. That was what her grandma did. That's why like there are a lot of reasons why she hates her fucking grandma or you. But yeah, or you had Shion rip her own fingernails out. And she's like, if you don't do this, I'm going to kill your bodyguard / best friend. I'm going to kill your uncle, and I'm going to kill Satoshi. And that's why she's so tilted, because she ripped out 3 of her own fucking fingernails, and Satoshi got fucking killed anyway. Like imagine your grandma goes up to you and she's like, I'm gonna have your boyfriend killed, your best friend, and your favorite uncle killed if you don't rip out 3 of your fingernails, and you fucking do it, and then 2 days later, because you're still recovering from being in the hospital from having like your fingernails ripped out, you finally get out of the house, and the first thing you learn from the cops is that your boyfriend's fucking dead. Or, well, he disappeared. He's disappeared, you know, conveniently. But like, kill the grandma? Oh yeah, the grandma's super dead. The grandma's dead now, actually. She tased the grandma and was actually going to torture her for a confession, but the taser killed her. And that's also why her sister is in the cage, because A, they were both at the same place, and B, her sister was right beside her grandma the whole time. Because her grandma thinks twins are evil, so she wants to make Shion suffer as much as possible, or kill her. I think we've been over this before, but like, we've been over this a couple times in this arc, but her grandma apparently literally tried to kill her the minute she was born. That's like how much her grandma hates her. It's pretty messed up. And her grandma's like basically running the local yakuza for the whole prefecture. So she has a lot of power and can really fuck with people. So making people disappear is not the hardest thing, especially when you have your own estate with its own underground torture chamber. All right. After that, I joined the youth group in search for Kimayoshi. I went down to the town council phone directory and called to see if he'd visited. Then I had the group split according to the circular notice divisions and sent them to search the town. Everyone seemed to be assuming they wouldn't find him. But since I knew they definitely never would, it was just bothersome to me. Even after midnight, they were still enthusiastically looking for him. I bore the sleepiness while yawning, and then I heard somebody whisper, "Last year, we did the same thing when Satoshi went missing." The youth group was looking for someone who would never be found, just like last year. I was yawning because I knew this. Last year, there must have been some people who were yawning and grinning on the inside. When did we stop searching last year? Do you remember? When Satoshi went missing? Oh, what time was it? It was around midnight. It was already 2 in the morning. Although they spent this much time searching for Kimayoshi, they didn't do the same when Satoshi went missing. After all, some people knew they wouldn't find him. They must have been sleepy. They must have said they'd leave it to the police. Shit, I want to kill the people who said that. She's pretty tilted. Pretty tilted. She's like, man, I want to kill the people who flagged out on looking for him because they knew he was already fucking dead and that they'd done it. And then she's like probably, but she at least stayed at least she's, well, I can't even say at least she did that. She's the one who disappeared him, so she's just attempting to put on a better act about caring for Kimayoshi. Yeah, that's messed up, and we got probably like 1 or 2 more chapters yet. Because this is gonna, I know how this ends. Although I'm curious if we're gonna get like the absolute last stuff that Keiichi saw, and see what happens to the last of the Sonozaki sisters. It's gonna be interesting to see how this wraps up, because it's not gonna wrap up the way Shion's predicting it's going to go. But I'm afraid we're gonna have to find that one next time.